The moment Serena Whitmore stepped through the service entrance of her own mansion, a stranger's hand clamped over her mouth. In the darkness, she heard two voices drifting from her bedroom. One belonged to her fiancé, the other to a woman who wasn't her. But it was the third voice, cold and calculating, discussing forged signatures and offshore accounts, that made her blood run cold. The man she was going to marry in 3 weeks wasn't just cheating. He was planning to take everything. If you want to see how a billionaire fights back when everyone she trusted becomes her enemy, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The private jet touched down at Henderson Executive Airport at 11:47 p.m., 4 days ahead of schedule. Serena Whitmore unbuckled her seatbelt before the wheels stopped rolling, ignoring the flight attendant's concerned glance. She'd been in Singapore for 2 weeks negotiating a merger that should have taken a month, but she'd pushed through 70-hour work weeks and back-to-back meetings fueled by espresso and sheer stubbornness. The deal closed early. She wanted to surprise Marcus. Her driver wasn't waiting at the hangar. She hadn't told anyone she was coming home. Serena threw her carry-on into the trunk of the town car she'd arranged through a different service, one Marcus didn't know about. It was a small paranoia, probably unnecessary, but her father had taught her never to be completely predictable. The moment everyone knows your pattern, he used to say, is the moment someone can use it against you. She'd laughed at him back then. She wasn't laughing now as the car wound through the empty streets of Henderson toward the estate in the hills. The mansion sat on 4 acres, a modern architectural statement of glass and steel that had been featured in Architectural Digest 3 years ago. Marcus had loved that article. He'd bought 10 copies and left them strategically placed around the house for visitors to find. At the time, she'd thought it was sweet. He was proud of her success, proud to be marrying into the Whitmore legacy. The car pulled up to the service gate instead of the main entrance, another of her father's habits she'd inherited. "Always have a back door?" he'd told her during one of their last conversations before the cancer took him. "And make sure nobody knows you know where it is." She paid the driver in cash, waited until the taillights disappeared down the hill, then punched in the 6-digit code that opened the service entrance. The gate rolled open silently. She'd had it maintained specifically to avoid the grinding sound the main gate made. The grounds were dark, except for the ambient lighting along the pathways. Marcus's Porsche sat in the circular driveway, which was odd because he'd told her he was spending the week at his mother's place in Scottsdale. She stared at the car for a long moment, her hand tightening on the handle of her carry-on. Maybe he'd come back early too. Maybe he'd missed her. She walked toward the service entrance at the back of the house, the one the staff used. Her heels clicked softly on the flagstone path. She'd almost reached the door when it opened and a hand shot out, grabbing her wrist and yanking her inside. Serena's scream died in her throat as another hand covered her mouth. She was pulled backward into the darkness of the service corridor, her carry-on clattering to the floor. "Don't scream." The voice was male, low, urgent. "Please, I'm trying to help you." She bit down hard on the palm covering her mouth. The hand jerked away with a muffled curse. "Jesus, okay, I deserve that." The voice backed away slightly. "Ms. Whitmore, please just listen for 10 seconds. My name is Noah Bennett. I work here. I clean the floors, maintain the grounds, and right now you need to not walk through that door." Serena's eyes were adjusting to the dim light. She could make out a tall figure, lean build, wearing a maintenance uniform. He was holding his bitten hand against his chest. "You have 5 seconds to explain why I shouldn't call security," she said, her voice shaking despite her attempt at authority. "Because your fiancé is in your bedroom," Noah said quickly, "and he's not alone." The words hit her like cold water. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to find a response that made sense. You're lying. Marcus is in Scottsdale." "He told you he was in Scottsdale," Noah corrected. "He's been here all week, with her." "Her?" "I don't know her name. Blonde, late 20s, drives a white Tesla. She's been staying in the master bedroom since Tuesday." Serena felt something crack in her chest, a physical sensation like ice breaking. "You're mistaken. I don't even know who you are. How do I know you're not—" "Come with me," Noah interrupted. He moved down the corridor, gesturing for her to follow. "There's a passage that runs behind the library. Original builder installed it for servants. It connects to a hidden door behind the bookshelf. You can see into the bedroom without being seen." She should have run. Should have called security, called the police, called someone. Instead, she followed the stranger down the dark corridor, her heart hammering against her ribs. The passage was narrow, the walls close. Noah moved quietly for a big man, his footsteps barely audible on the old wooden floor. He stopped at a small panel in the wall, pressed his fingers against it, and it swung inward. Warm light spilled through the gap. Voices drifted out, muffled but distinct. "Told you the documents are ready." That was Marcus. Definitely Marcus. She signs them the day after the wedding, thinking it's just standard spousal financial planning. And she won't read them? A woman's voice, light, almost playful. Serena doesn't read anything her lawyer puts in front of her. She trusts him completely. "Lucky for us, you bought him 2 years ago." Marcus laughed. The sound made Serena's stomach turn. She'd heard that laugh 1,000 times, usually when he was pleased with himself. "Best investment I ever made. Once the papers are signed, the offshore accounts activate, the trust transfer. By the time she realizes what happened, everything will be locked up so tight she'll spend years in court trying to get it back. And we'll be in Monaco." What if she fights? She won't. Not really. Serena's strong when it comes to business, but personally? She's weak. Her father just died. She has no close friends, no family left. She's desperate to believe someone loves her. His voice dropped, intimate and cruel. "It's actually kind of pathetic." Serena's hand flew to her mouth, pressing hard to keep the sound inside. Noah stood rigid beside her, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. "You're terrible," the woman said, but she was laughing. "I love it." 3 more weeks, Marcus said. "Then we're free. And rich. Very, very rich." Serena stumbled backward, her shoulder hitting the wall. Noah caught her elbow, steadying her. His grip was firm but careful, like he was holding something fragile. "I need—" Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard, tried again. "I need to get out of here." Noah nodded once. He closed the panel silently and led her back down the corridor, moving faster now. When they reached the service entrance, he grabbed her carry-on and pushed open the door. The night air hit her face, cool and sharp. She stood on the flagstone path, breathing hard, her mind racing in circles. "Where's your phone?" Noah asked. She patted her jacket pocket automatically, pulled it out. Her hands were shaking. "Call a car. Don't go to any of your usual hotels. Pick something random, something you've never been to before. Check in under a different name. Pay cash if you can." She stared at him. Why are you—" "Because I've been watching this play out for 6 weeks, Noah said quietly. "And I couldn't just stand there and let it happen." 6 weeks? You knew for 6 weeks and didn't—" "I tried." His voice was rough with frustration. "I called your office 4 times, left messages with your assistant, tried to reach you through the main estate number. Nobody would put me through. I'm the janitor, Miss Whitmore. Nobody listens to the janitor." She looked at him properly for the first time. He was older than she'd initially thought, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes and carpenter's hands. There was paint on his work boots and a coffee stain on his collar. He looked like exactly what he said he was, someone who cleaned floors and fixed broken things and got ignored by people like her. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "You shouldn't," Noah said bluntly. "For all you know, I'm part of it. But right now, you need to get somewhere safe and figure out your next move. And I'm the only person in this whole situation who has absolutely nothing to gain from any of this." He had a point. She looked back at the mansion, at the lights glowing in the windows of her own bedroom where her fiancé was planning her destruction. "The Silverline Hotel," she said suddenly. "Downtown. I've never been there." "Good. Go now. Don't tell anyone where you are." She ordered the car with shaking fingers. The app said 6 minutes. "They were talking about documents," she said, not looking at him. "Forged papers. My lawyer—" Her voice broke. "Richard's worked for my family for 20 years. "I know," Noah said. "I've seen him here. Late-night meetings in the study, always when you're traveling." The car appeared at the bottom of the driveway, headlights cutting through the darkness. "I have evidence," Noah said quickly. "Photos, recordings, documents I found in the trash. It's not enough for court probably, but it's enough for you to know I'm not making this up. Meet me tomorrow. I'll bring everything." "Where?" "There's a diner on Charleston Boulevard. Rosie's. Nothing fancy, but it's public and nobody you know would ever go there. 10 a.m.? She nodded numbly. The car was pulling up to the gate. "Miss Whitmore?" Noah's voice stopped her as she started toward the car. I'm sorry. About all of it. She didn't trust herself to speak. She just walked to the car, climbed in, and gave the driver the address. As they pulled away, she looked back once. Noah was still standing there, a dark figure against the darker house, watching to make sure she got away safely. Then he disappeared into the shadows, and she was alone with the wreckage of her life. But the Silver Line Hotel was exactly what she needed. Anonymous, efficient, and utterly forgettable. The night clerk barely looked at her as she checked in under the name Sarah Martinez, a character from a novel she'd read on the plane. She paid cash for 3 nights and took the key card without a word. The room was small, generic, nothing like the sprawling master suite she'd left behind. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the blank wall, trying to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Missing you, babe. Can't wait until you're home. 3 more days feels like forever. She stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then she opened her banking app and started checking accounts. Everything looked normal. All her assets were exactly where they should be, which made sense. He hadn't married her yet. He was waiting, being patient, planning every detail while she walked around like an idiot, thinking herself lucky to have found love. Another text. Dream about you every night. We're going to have such a beautiful life together. She turned off the phone and threw it on the nightstand. The ceiling had a water stain in the corner, a brown bloom spreading across the white paint. She counted the cracks radiating from it. 12. Unlucky number. At some point, she fell asleep in her clothes, still wearing her shoes, with all the lights on. Optipat. She woke at dawn to sunlight stabbing through the thin curtains. Her mouth tasted like metal, and her neck ached from the cheap pillow. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. She showered in the tiny bathroom, using the miniature bottles of shampoo that smelled like fake lavender. Her reflection in the mirror looked pale and hollow-eyed. She'd lost weight in Singapore, working through meals and sleeping 4 hours a night. Now she looked like a stranger. At 9:30, she called another car. The driver didn't try to make conversation, which was good because she had nothing to say. Rosie's Diner was a relic from the 70s, all vinyl booths and chrome trim. A waitress with a name tag that said Donna pointed her to a booth in the back without being asked. Noah was already there, sitting with his back to the wall, a cup of coffee going cold in front of him. He looked different in daylight. Younger somehow, despite the lines around his eyes. He was wearing clean jeans and a flannel shirt, and he stood up when she approached, a gesture that seemed old-fashioned and oddly comforting. "You came," he said. "I shouldn't have," Serena replied, sliding into the booth across from him. "This is insane. I don't know you. I don't know why I'm here." "Because you need to know the truth," Noah said simply. He pulled a manila envelope from the messenger bag beside him and set it on the table between them. "It's all in here." She stared at the envelope like it might explode. Donna appeared with a pot of coffee. "What'll it be, honey?" "Just coffee," Serena said. "Black." "You should eat something," Noah said after Donna left. "You look like you haven't slept." "Don't." Her voice came out sharper than she intended. "Don't pretend to know me or care about me. Just show me what you have." Something flickered in his eyes, hurt, maybe, or frustration, but he just nodded and pushed the envelope toward her. Inside were photographs, lots of them. Marcus meeting with an older man she recognized as Richard Walsh, her family's attorney. Marcus with the blonde woman, kissing her in the driveway of the mansion. Marcus in a coffee shop with another man she didn't recognize, documents spread across the table between them. There were printouts of text messages, screenshots of emails discussing S's accounts, and the transfer schedule, and post-wedding access. There were copies of bank statements for accounts she'd never seen before, all opened in the last year, all with Marcus's name attached. And there were documents, legal papers with her signature on them, except she'd never signed them. The signature was close, but not quite right. The loop of the S was too wide. "Where did you get these?" she whispered. "The trash, mostly," Noah said. "Your lawyer leaves his briefcase in the library when he comes for meetings. Sometimes papers fall out. Sometimes I'm mopping the floor nearby and I notice things." He paused. "And sometimes I notice the security cameras in the study have been turned off during certain conversations, so I make sure I'm cleaning the air vents right above where they're talking." She looked up at him. "You've been spying on them." "Yes." "You could be arrested for that." "Probably," Noah agreed. But I figured you being robbed blind was worse than me catching some misdemeanor charges. Serena looked back at the documents, her mind trying to put the pieces together. This shows intent, but it's not proof. Any lawyer would say these are preliminary drafts, that Marcus was just exploring options for our joint finances. The photographs prove he's cheating, but not fraud. I know, Noah said. That's why you need to catch them in the act. You need a confession, something undeniable. How? The wedding is in 3 weeks, right? And according to their conversations, you're supposed to sign the real documents the day after. So they'll need to present them to you soon, probably during some romantic moment where you're not thinking clearly. That's when you get them on record. You're talking about me wearing a wire to catch my own fiancé confessing to fraud. I'm talking about you protecting yourself before it's too late. Donna returned with coffee and a plate of pancakes she set in front of Serena without asking. You need to eat, honey. You're too skinny. After she left, Serena stared at the pancakes. The smell made her nauseous. Why are you doing this? She asked Noah. What do you get out of it? He was quiet for a long moment. Nothing. I get nothing. Then why risk it? Why not just keep your head down and keep your job? Because I have a daughter, Noah said quietly. She's 6. And someday I'm going to have to teach her about doing the right thing even when it's hard, even when it costs you something. And I can't teach her that if I'm the kind of man who watches someone get destroyed and does nothing. Serena felt something crack in her chest again, but this time it felt different, like something thawing instead of breaking. What's her name? She asked. Your daughter. Emma. Where is she now? With my mom. I have her on weekends. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. Her mother left when Emma was 2, decided she didn't want to be a parent anymore. Just left one day and never came back. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. He said it simply, without bitterness. Emma's happy. She likes her school. She has friends. She doesn't need anything else. Except money, Serena said. Working as a janitor can't pay much. You could have blackmailed Marcus yourself. Gotten a big payout to keep quiet. Noah's jaw tightened. Is that what you think? That everyone's for sale? In my experience, yes. Then you've been spending time with the wrong people, Noah said. He stood up, throwing a 20 on the table. Keep the documents. Do what you want with them. I tried to help, but I'm not going to sit here and be accused of... Wait. Serena grabbed his wrist. Please. I'm sorry. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't know how to do this. He looked down at her hand on his wrist, then at her face. Whatever he saw there made him sit back down. Okay, he said. So let's figure it out. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Noah had a friend who could get a recording device small enough to hide. Serena would come home, pretend nothing was wrong, wait for Marcus to make his move. When he presented the documents, she'd ask questions, get him talking, get it all on tape. What about your lawyer? Noah asked. Walsh. He'll be there too, probably. You need to be ready for both of them. Richard's been with my family since I was 10 years old, Serena said. The words felt thick in her mouth. He helped my father build the company. He was at Dad's funeral. He stood next to me at the grave. And now he's stealing from you. She closed her eyes. How did I miss this? How did I not see any of it? Because you loved him, Noah said simply. And love makes you stupid. Trust me, I know. When she finally left the diner, the envelope clutched in her hands, Noah walked her to her car. When are you going back? He asked. To the house. Tomorrow night. I'm supposed to come home from Singapore tomorrow. I'll stick to the schedule, act normal. You going to be okay? She almost laughed. No, but I'll manage. He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. It was actually half a business card, torn down the middle with a phone number written in pen. That's my cell. You need anything, you call. Day or night. I mean it. She looked at the ragged piece of cardboard, then at him. Why are you being so nice to me? Because somebody should be, Noah said. And apparently there's a real shortage of decent people in your life right now. He walked back into the diner without waiting for a response. Serena sat in the car for a long time, the envelope in her lap, staring at nothing. Then she drove back to the Silverline Hotel and started making plans to destroy the man she'd almost married. Punts. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of phone calls and preparation. She contacted a new attorney, someone Marcus didn't know, someone Richard Walsh had never met. She moved money into accounts her fiancé couldn't access. She called her board members one by one, told them nothing specific but asked them to be ready for an emergency meeting. And she practiced lying. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror and practiced smiling, practiced sounding happy, practiced saying, "I missed you so much," without her voice breaking. By the time her flight was officially scheduled to land, she almost believed her own performance. The car ride back to the mansion felt like driving toward an execution. Her execution. Marcus was waiting in the driveway when she arrived, his arms open, his smile perfect. He'd always been handsome, tall, athletic, with the kind of symmetrical features that look good in photographs. She'd thought that beauty meant something, that it reflected what was inside. "There's my girl," he said, pulling her into a hug that smelled like his cologne and felt like a trap. "I missed you so much." "Missed you too," she said into his shoulder. The lie tasted like poison. He carried her bags inside, asked about Singapore, poured her wine. Everything was exactly as it should be, exactly as it had been 100 times before, except now she knew what was underneath. "I have a surprise for you," Marcus said over dinner. He'd made reservations at her favorite restaurant, the one overlooking the valley. "For after the wedding, I've been working with Richard on something special." Her hand tightened on her fork. "Oh?" "Financial planning stuff. Making sure we're set up properly as a married couple. Joint accounts, estate planning, that kind of thing." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I know it's not romantic, but I want to take care of you, Serena. I want to make sure you're protected." She almost threw the wine in his face. Instead, she smiled and said, "That's sweet. When do we need to do this?" Richard suggested we handle it right after the honeymoon. That way everything's fresh, and we can start our marriage with a clean slate. "Sounds perfect," she said. The recording device was smaller than she'd expected, barely bigger than a button. Noah had dropped it off at her hotel that morning, along with instructions and a text that said simply, "You've got this." She wore it to dinner the next night, hidden inside her blazer, her heart pounding so hard she was sure Marcus could hear it. Richard Walsh arrived right on time, carrying his leather briefcase and wearing his usual three-piece suit. He'd been at her father's bedside when he died. He'd helped plan the funeral. He'd looked her in the eye and promised to protect everything her father had built. And now he was here to help steal it. "Serena," Richard said warmly, kissing her cheek. "You look wonderful. Singapore agreed with you." "Thank you, Richard." She managed to keep her voice steady. "Marcus said you had some papers for us to review?" "Just routine matters," Richard said, settling into the chair across from her in the study. "Post-wedding financial planning, making sure all your assets are properly aligned now that you'll be married." Marcus poured bourbon for the three of them, playing the gracious host. Serena noticed he barely touched his own glass. The documents came out of the briefcase, crisp and official-looking. Richard spread them across the desk, pointing to various sections. "This first set transfers certain accounts into a joint trust," he explained. "Standard practice for married couples of your wealth level. It protects both of you in case anything happens." Serena leaned forward, studying the papers. The recording device felt like it was burning through her jacket. "These account numbers, some of them I don't recognize." "Consolidation accounts," Richard said smoothly. "We'll be moving funds from your various holdings into these central trusts for easier management." "And Marcus has equal access to all of them?" "Of course. You're going to be husband and wife. What's yours is his, what's his is yours." Except Marcus had nothing. Marcus came from money that had dried up 2 generations ago. His family name meant something at country clubs and charity galas, but his actual net worth was minimal. Everything he had through her. "Walk me through this section," Serena said, pointing to a clause buried in the middle of page 7. "The part about offshore transfers." Richard's smile flickered for just a second. "That's for tax purposes. Perfectly legal. Many of our clients use similar structures." "Which clients?" "I'm afraid I can't discuss other clients' affairs." "Right." Serena sat back, looking at Marcus. "This is a lot to process. Can we take a few days to think about it?" She saw the panic flash across his face before he covered it. "Babe, Richard took time out of his schedule to come here. We should probably just, I understand it's complicated," Richard interrupted, "but Marcus is right. There are time-sensitive elements. Some of these accounts need to be established before the wedding to maximize the tax benefits. If we wait too long, you'll lose those advantages." How much are we talking about? Serena asked. In total, how much money moves with these signatures? Richard glanced at Marcus, just for a second, but she caught it. Roughly 700 million, Richard said finally. Give or take, $700 million. More than half her fortune. Her father had spent 40 years building that company, sacrificing time with his family, his health, his last years of life. And these two men wanted to take it with a few signatures and some fake legal language. I need some air, Serena said, standing up abruptly. It's a lot of money. I need to think. Serena, Marcus reached for her hand. Just give me a minute. She pulled away and walked to the window, her back to both of them. Behind her, she heard Richard's voice, lower now. You said she wouldn't question it. She's tired from the trip, Marcus replied. She'll sign. She always signs what you put in front of her. She's asking different questions tonight. Did something happen in Singapore? Nothing happened. She's just being neurotic. You know how women get about money. Serena's reflection in the window glass showed a woman on the edge of breaking. But the recording device was still running, and she needed more. She needed them to say it plainly. She turned around. Okay, explain it to me one more time, all of it. I want to understand exactly what I'm signing. For the next hour, she asked questions. Detailed, specific questions about every clause, every account, every transfer. And slowly, carefully, they laid out the whole scheme. Richard explained how the trusts would actually be controlled by shell companies in the Cayman Islands. Marcus described how the money would move through various accounts, becoming untraceable within 72 hours of the wedding. They talked about the timeline, the exit strategy, the contingency plans if she somehow discovered the fraud. They thought they were reassuring her. They thought the details would make her feel secure. Instead, they were confessing to everything. When Marcus finally said, and the best part is, by the time you figure out what happened, we'll be long gone. Serena felt something inside her turn to ice. Gone where? She asked quietly. Marcus laughed. That's the beauty of it, babe. You'll never know. We'll just disappear. New names, new lives, and enough money to live like royalty forever. We? Serena repeated. You and Richard? No, said a voice from the doorway. Him and me. The blonde woman from the bedroom walked in like she owned the place. She was younger than Serena had thought, maybe 26, with the kind of casual confidence that came from never being told no. She crossed to Marcus and kissed him, her hand possessive on his chest. This is Natalie, Marcus said. My fiancée. Well, my real fiancé. The room spun. Serena grabbed the edge of the desk. Sit down before you fall down, Natalie said, sounding bored. We don't have time for dramatics. How long? Serena managed to ask. How long what? Marcus poured himself more bourbon, relaxed now. How long have Natalie and I been together? 3 years. How long have I been planning this? Since the day I met you. You're rich, alone, and desperate for someone to love you. You were perfect. Richard was gathering the papers, sliding them back into his briefcase. Marcus, we should... No, let her hear it, Marcus interrupted. She's going to sign anyway. What's she going to do? Call the police? With what proof? Everything here is legal. Questionable, maybe, but legal. And I've been so careful. The perfect boyfriend, the perfect fiancé. He moved closer to Serena, his voice dropping to something intimate and cruel. I know everything about you, Serena, your health issues, your anxiety medication, your father's disappointment that you never gave him grandchildren. I know you check your phone 40 times a day, hoping for messages from friends who don't exist. I know you cry yourself to sleep wondering if anyone will ever really love you. Every word hit like a physical blow. I studied you, Marcus continued, like a doctoral thesis. Every weakness, every insecurity, every desperate need. You were so easy to manipulate, so grateful for attention, so pathetically eager to believe someone wanted you for more than your money. Natalie laughed, high and sharp. Did you really think someone like Marcus would marry someone like you without a reason? Look in the mirror, honey. You're 30, you're boring, and your best feature is your bank account. Something in Serena broke then. Not her spirit, that had broken days ago. This was different. This was the last chain holding her to the person she used to be, the one who wanted to be loved, who believed in good intentions. That person died in the study that night. The person who stood up from the desk was someone new, someone harder, someone who had stopped caring about being nice or polite or understanding. You're right, Serena said quietly. I was pathetic. I was desperate. I wanted so badly to believe you loved me that I ignored every red flag, every inconsistency, every lie. Marcus smiled, thinking he'd won. But here's the thing about underestimating people, Serena continued. Eventually, they surprise you. She unbuttoned her blazer and pulled out the recording device, holding it up so they could all see it. This has been recording for 2 hours, every word, every confession, every detail of your fraud. The color drained from Marcus's face. You're bluffing, Natalie said, but her voice wavered. Am I? Serena pulled out her phone and played back the last 10 minutes. Their voices filled the study, crystal clear. By the time you figure out what happened, we'll be long gone. Richard stood up so fast his chair fell over. That's illegal. You can't record someone without consent in Nevada. Actually, said a new voice from the door, Nevada is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows they're being recorded, it's perfectly legal. Serena's new attorney, Jennifer Chen, walked into the study with 2 police officers behind her. I've been listening to the feed from Ms. Whitmore's device for the past hour. We have more than enough evidence for fraud, conspiracy, and theft by deception charges. Marcus backed toward the window. Serena, wait. Let's talk about this. We can work something out. No, Serena said. We really can't. You love me. I know you do. You wouldn't destroy what we have over you stealing $700 million from me? Serena's laugh was cold and sharp. Over you mocking me to your girlfriend while planning to leave me penniless? Over you and my father's trusted attorney conspiring to destroy everything my family built? She stepped closer to him. What exactly do you think I should overlook, Marcus? Your lies? Your betrayal? The fact that every moment we spent together was a performance while you plotted my destruction? Ms. Whitmore, one of the police officers said gently, we can take it from here. They put Marcus in handcuffs. He fought, struggling and swearing. Natalie tried to run, but the second officer caught her at the front door. Richard Walsh sat in his chair looking suddenly old, his hands shaking. Serena, please, think about your father. Think about what he would want. Don't you dare speak about my father, Serena said, her voice like ice. You sat at his bedside and promised to protect his legacy. You looked me in the eye at his funeral and said you'd always be there for me. And all along you were planning this. It wasn't personal, Richard said weakly. It was just business. It's always personal, Serena replied. You just don't care enough to notice. She walked out while they were still reading Richard his rights. Walked through her own house like a stranger, past the photos on the walls of her and Marcus, past the engagement ring display case he'd insisted on, past the wedding planner samples spread across the dining room table. The mansion felt like a mausoleum, beautiful and empty and full of dead things. She found Noah outside, sitting on the back steps, looking out at the dark expanse of her property. He'd been there the whole time, waiting to make sure she was okay. It's done, she said. He looked up at her. You all right? No, but I will be. Blue and red lights were starting to flash in the driveway. More police arriving, probably reporters soon too, once word got out. Do you have somewhere to go? Noah asked. You can't stay here tonight. She hadn't thought that far ahead. But he was right. The mansion would be swarming with police and lawyers for hours, maybe days. I'll go back to the hotel, she said. The Silver Line? She nodded. You shouldn't be alone, Noah said. He stood up, brushed off his jeans. I'm not suggesting anything weird, but I could get you there. Make sure you're settled. Then I'll leave, I promise. Serena looked at this man, this stranger who had saved her from disaster, who had asked for nothing, who had stayed to make sure she was safe. She didn't know him, didn't know anything about him beyond what he'd shown her in the last few days. But he was the only honest person in her life right now, and that had to count for something. Okay, she said. Thank you. They took his truck, an old Ford that smelled like coffee and had Emma's car seat in the back. The drive was quiet. Serena watched the lights of Henderson disappear behind them, watched the city spread out below as they descended into the valley. Your daughter, she said suddenly. Emma, does she know what you did? God, no, Noah said. She's 6. She knows I clean houses and that I love her. That's it. That's all she needs to know. You risked a lot. Your job. Maybe worse. I know. Why? He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, because somebody did it for me once. When Emma's mom left, I was drowning, working 2 jobs trying to figure out how to be a single parent, barely keeping my head above water. My neighbor, this old woman named Mrs. Kowalski, she started watching Emma for free. Wouldn't take money, just said someone helped her once, and she was passing it on. He glanced at Serena. You don't forget that. When someone saves your life for no reason, except it's the right thing to do. They reached the silver line just as a white Tesla pulled into the driveway. Natalie. She was supposed to be in custody, but somehow she'd gotten out, got in her car, and followed them here. She climbed out, her perfect hair disheveled, her makeup smeared, and she was screaming. You ruined everything. We had it planned perfectly, and you ruined it. Hotel security was running toward them, but Natalie was faster. She had something in her hand. Serena couldn't see what until she was 3 feet away. A gun. A small silver pistol that looked like a toy, but definitely wasn't. You think you're so smart, Natalie was saying, her voice high and hysterical. You think you won? He'll get out. They always get out. And then we'll finish what we started. We'll take everything. Noah stepped between them. Don't, he said quietly. Just don't. Get out of my way, janitor. I said don't. For a moment, everything was frozen. Then hotel security tackled Natalie from behind, and the gun went skittering across the asphalt, and it was over. Police arrived within minutes. Apparently Natalie had been released on bail. Marcus's mother had put up her house, and had immediately violated her restraining order by coming here. She was back in handcuffs, this time screaming threats about lawsuits and revenge, and how Serena would regret this. I already regret it, Serena said quietly, watching them put Natalie in the squad car. I regret every choice that led me to this moment. Later, much later, when the police had finally left and Noah had checked every corner of her hotel room to make sure it was secure, he stood at the door preparing to leave. I should call my mom, he said. Let her know I'll pick up Emma tomorrow instead of tonight. You should go to her now, Serena said. She needs you. Will you be okay? Serena looked around the generic hotel room at the life she'd escaped, at the disaster she'd survived. Eventually, she said, eventually I'll be okay. Noah handed her his torn business card again, even though she still had the first one. Call if you need anything, and I mean anything. Even if it's just… Silence, Serena finished. Yeah, I know. He smiled, and for the first time since all this started, it reached his eyes. Yeah. After he left, Serena sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not for Marcus. He'd never been real. Not for Richard or the lost money or the ruined wedding. She cried for her father, who had spent his life building something beautiful, only to have it almost stolen by the people he trusted. She cried for the daughter he'd raised to be strong and smart and capable, who had still almost lost everything because she'd wanted so badly to believe in love. And she cried for herself. For the woman who had walked into that mansion 4 days early and discovered that her entire life was built on lies. But when the tears finally stopped, something else remained, something hard and clear and unbreakable. She pulled out her laptop and started making calls. By morning, Marcus's bail would be revoked. Richard would be facing disbarment. The shell companies would be frozen. Every thread of their conspiracy would be unraveled. Outside, dawn was breaking over Las Vegas, turning the sky pink and gold. Serena watched the sunrise through the hotel window and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not happiness. Not yet. But possibility. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could build something real from all this wreckage. Her phone buzzed. A text from Noah. Emma says you're a superhero. I told her you're just someone who refused to give up. Serena smiled. It felt strange on her face, like muscles she'd forgotten how to use. She texted back, tell Emma thank you. And tell her you're pretty heroic yourself. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be hell. Might as well be rested for it. He was right. Tomorrow she'd have to face the board, the press, the legal battles that would drag on for months. But tonight, she was safe. The truth was out. The people who had tried to destroy her were in handcuffs. And somewhere across the city, A single father was tucking his daughter into bed and teaching her, without words, that doing the right thing mattered more than playing it safe. Serena turned off the lights and finally fell into a dreamless sleep. The mansion could wait. The lawyers could wait. The whole broken mess of her life could wait until morning. Tonight she was done running, done pretending, done being the woman who believed that love could save her. Tomorrow, she'd start being the woman who saved herself. The morning came too fast and too bright. Serena woke to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages, most from numbers she didn't recognize. News traveled fast in circles like hers, and apparently Marcus's arrest had made the early edition of every business publication in the country. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jennifer Chen, her new attorney. "Have you seen the headlines?" Jennifer asked without preamble. "No, and I don't want to." "Good instinct. Don't look. Don't read anything. The PR team I hired is handling the press. Your only job today is to get through the board meeting without falling apart." "What time?" 2 p.m., conference room at Whitmore Industries. I'll meet you there at 1:30 to prep. Jennifer paused. "How are you holding up?" Serena looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes she'd slept in. "I'm standing. That's about all I've got." "Standing is good. Standing means you're still in the fight." After Jennifer hung up, Serena ordered room service, coffee, and toast she couldn't taste, and tried to prepare herself for what came next. The board would have questions, lots of them, about Marcus, about Richard, about how she'd let this happen in the first place. She was pulling on clean clothes when her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Ms. Whitmore?" A woman's voice, older, with a slight accent. "My name is Margaret Walsh. I'm Richard's wife." Serena's hand tightened on the phone. "I don't think we should be talking. Please, just 2 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Against her better judgment, Serena didn't hang up. 2 minutes. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." Margaret's voice cracked. "I had no idea what Richard was doing. I swear to you I didn't know. We've been married 34 years and I thought I knew him. But this—" She broke off, crying softly. "Your father was Richard's best friend. They built that company together. I don't understand how he could—" "Mrs. Walsh, I appreciate the call, but your husband made his choices. He has to live with them." I know he does." Margaret took a shaky breath. "I'm divorcing him. Filed papers this morning. I wanted you to know that. I won't benefit from what he tried to do to you. I won't take a penny of it." Something in Serena softened slightly. "That's not necessary. Whatever assets you have, they're yours. I'm not coming after you." "You'd be within your rights if you did." "Maybe, but I'm tired of punishing people who didn't actually hurt me." Serena sat on the edge of the bed. "Your husband betrayed you too, Mrs. Walsh. Maybe in a different way than he betrayed me, but it's still betrayal. I'm not going to add to that." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. "Your father raised you well. He'd be proud of the woman you became." "I hope so," Serena whispered. "I really hope so." After they hung up, Serena sat in the silence of the hotel room and thought about Richard Walsh. About the man who'd bounced her on his knee when she was little, who'd taught her to play chess, who'd stood in the hospital corridor when her father died and held her while she sobbed. That man had never existed. Or maybe he had, once, and greed had killed him slowly over the years until only the shell remained. She'd never know which. And it didn't matter anymore. By 1 p.m., Serena was standing outside the Whitmore Industries building, a glass and steel tower downtown that bore her family name in chrome letters 10 feet tall. She'd worked in this building since college, had an office on the 20th floor, knew every security guard by name. But today, walking through those doors felt like entering enemy territory. Jennifer met her in the lobby, carrying 2 coffees and a leather portfolio stuffed with documents. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "Thanks. You really know how to boost a girl's confidence." "I'm your attorney, not your therapist. My job is to keep you from getting destroyed in there, not to make you feel good about it." Jennifer handed her a coffee. "Drink this. You need to be sharp." They took the elevator to the executive conference room in silence. Serena watched the floor numbers climb and tried to remember the last time she'd felt this nervous in her own building. The board was already assembled when they walked in, 12 faces, ranging from barely concealed pity to outright hostility. Most of them had known her since childhood. Several had worked with her father, and all of them were wondering the same thing. How had she let this happen? David Chen, the board chairman and her father's oldest friend, stood up when she entered. "Serena, thank you for coming." "It's my company, David. Where else would I be?" A flicker of approval crossed his face. "Fair point. Please, sit. We have a lot to discuss." The next hour was brutal. They went through every detail of Marcus's scheme, Richard's involvement, the forged documents, the shell companies. Jennifer fielded most of the legal questions while Serena sat rigid in her chair, answering only when directly addressed. "The question we need to answer," said Patricia Monroe, the CFO, "is how this happened in the first place. Richard Walsh had unrestricted access to sensitive financial information. How did he get that access?" "My father gave it to him," Serena said quietly. 20 years ago, when they restructured the company, Richard was supposed to be the guardian, the one person we could trust completely. "And you never thought to verify that trust?" "No." Serena met Patricia's eyes directly. "I didn't. My father trusted him, so I trusted him. That was my mistake." "A mistake that almost cost this company $700 million, Patricia shot back. "But didn't," Serena replied, her voice hardening. "Because I caught it, I stopped it, and I made sure everyone involved is now facing criminal charges." "After you got engaged to a con artist," someone muttered from the end of the table. Serena turned to face him. Gerald Rothstein, a board member who'd been pushing for her removal since her father died. "Say that again, Gerald. Louder this time." Gerald had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I'm just saying, your judgment..." "My judgment caught a sophisticated fraud that fooled a lawyer with 30 years of experience. My judgment gathered evidence, documented everything, and handed law enforcement a case so airtight that all 3 defendants are looking at federal time." She stood up, placing her hands flat on the conference table. "So unless you're suggesting I should have psychically known that my fiancé was a criminal, I'd recommend you choose your next words very carefully." The room went silent. David cleared his throat. "The point is, Serena, we need to ensure this never happens again. We're implementing new protocols. All board members will have financial oversight access. No single person, including you, will have unrestricted control." "Good," Serena said. "That's exactly what we should do." "You're agreeing?" Patricia sounded surprised. "Of course I'm agreeing. I'm not an idiot, Patricia. I know I made mistakes. I know I trusted the wrong people. And I know this company needs better safeguards." Serena looked around the table. "My father built something incredible here. Something worth protecting. If you want to put checks and balances in place to make sure I don't make another mistake, then do it. I'll sign off on anything reasonable." The tension in the room shifted slightly. Not gone, but eased. "There's one more thing," David said. "The wedding. It was supposed to be in 2 weeks. High profile, lots of press coverage. We need to make a statement before the media circus gets completely out of control." "I'll handle it," Serena said. "Give me 24 hours. I'll put together a press release and schedule a brief statement. Nothing dramatic, just the facts. Will you take questions?" "Absolutely not." Jennifer nodded approvingly. "Smart. The less you say, the less ammunition they have." The meeting dragged on for another hour, covering security protocols, financial audits, and crisis management strategies. By the time it ended, Serena felt like she'd been physically beaten. David walked her to the elevator. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly. "The way you handled that, the way you're handling all of this, he'd be proud. He'd be disappointed I got fooled in the first place. He'd be human enough to understand that love makes people stupid." David smiled sadly. "He married your mother, after all. Took him 3 years to realize she was only interested in his money, nearly bankrupted himself in the divorce." Serena had forgotten that. Her mother had left when she was 6, disappeared to Europe with her settlement, and never looked back. "I guess I come by it honestly, then." "You come by a lot honestly, including the stubbornness." David squeezed her shoulder. "Take a few days, get your head straight. The company will survive without you for a week." "I'll think about it." She didn't take a few days. She went back to work the next morning, because sitting alone in a hotel room thinking about Marcus made her want to throw herself off the roof. Work was better. Work was something she could control. Her assistant, Emily, nearly cried when Serena walked into the office. I'm so sorry. I should have seen something. I should have known. How? Serena asked. How would you have known? He fooled everyone, Emily. Professional investigators, lawyers, me. You had no reason to suspect anything. But he was always so charming. Too charming, you know? I should have... Should have what? Told me my fiancé smiled too much? Come on. Serena dropped her bag on her desk. What I need from you is coffee, a summary of everything that happened while I was dealing with this mess, and absolutely no sympathy. Can you do that? Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. Yeah, I can do that. The coffee appeared 3 minutes later, along with a stack of folders and a handwritten note. You're stronger than you think. Serena tucked the note into her drawer and got to work. 3 days passed in a blur of conference calls, damage control, and carefully worded statements to the press. Marcus made bail again. His mother had mortgaged everything she owned, but he was under house arrest with an ankle monitor. Natalie was still in custody, charged with assault in violation of a restraining order. Richard had been formally disbarred and was cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. The whole thing was falling apart exactly the way it should. So why did Serena still feel like she was drowning? She was working late on Thursday when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. How are you holding up? She stared at it for a moment before realizing it was Noah. She'd never actually saved his number. Tired, angry, still standing. She paused, then added, How's Emma? Drawing pictures of you punching bad guys. I tried to explain that's not exactly what happened, but she's committed to the narrative. Despite everything, Serena smiled. Tell her I appreciate the artistic license. She also wants to know if you have a cape. I told her no, but she seemed skeptical. No cape. Just a good lawyer and a recording device. Less dramatic, but probably more effective. Serena looked at the clock. 8:30 p.m. She'd been in the office for 12 hours and hadn't eaten anything since breakfast. Her stomach was a knot of anxiety and exhaustion, and the thought of going back to that sterile hotel room made her want to scream. She typed, Are you busy right now? 3 dots appeared immediately. Define busy. Emma's asleep and I'm watching a cooking show I'm not really watching. Why? I need to get out of this office before I do something stupid like throw my computer through the window. Do you want to grab food? The dots appeared and disappeared 3 times before he finally responded. You sure that's a good idea? Press is everywhere. Last thing you need is photos of you having dinner with the janitor. I don't care about the press. And you're not the janitor anymore. You quit, remember? There was a longer pause this time. Yeah, I quit. Still weird saying it out loud. So is that a yes or a no? It's a yes, but somewhere quiet. Not one of those places where people take pictures of their food. Deal. There's a Thai place on Spring Mountain. Palin. Know it? I'll find it. 30 minutes? Perfect. Serena grabbed her jacket and was halfway to the elevator when Emily appeared from nowhere. Going somewhere? Home. Maybe. I don't know. Emily's eyes narrowed. You're meeting someone. What? No, I'm just... How do you even... You're smiling. You haven't smiled in days. So either you're meeting someone or you've finally had a complete psychotic break. Emily crossed her arms. Please tell me it's not Marcus. It's definitely not Marcus. It's... Serena hesitated. It's the guy who helped me figure out what Marcus was doing. Noah. We're just getting food. Noah? Emily's expression shifted from concern to interest. The janitor? Former janitor. And don't look at me like that. Like what? Like you're planning my wedding. We're getting Thai food, not getting married. Right, Thai food. With the guy who saved your life and asked for nothing in return. Nothing romantic about that at all. Serena felt her face heat. It's not... We're not... It's just food, Emily. Uh-huh. Well, you have fun with your just food, and maybe wear some lip gloss, just saying. Serena did not wear lip gloss, but she did check her reflection in the elevator on the way down, which was basically the same thing. The Thai restaurant was tucked into a strip mall between a laundromat and a closed pharmacy, the kind of place you'd drive past 100 times without noticing. Inside, it was small and warm, with plastic tablecloths and mismatched chairs and the smell of lemongrass and chili. Noah was already there, sitting at a table in the back. He stood up when she walked in, and she noticed he'd changed out of his work clothes into clean jeans and a button-down shirt that looked like he'd ironed it. You didn't have to dress up, she said. I didn't. This is just... He looked down at himself. Okay, yeah. I dressed up a little. Felt weird meeting you in my paint-stained stuff. I wouldn't have cared. I know, but I would have. They ordered too much food. Pad thai, green curry, spring rolls, mango sticky rice, and spent the first 10 minutes eating in awkward silence. Finally, Noah said, So, how bad is it? The company? The press? My complete humiliation? All of it. Serena set down her fork. The company's fine. The press is vultures. And the humiliation is... She paused. It's manageable. Barely, but manageable. That's something. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, I got played by a con artist, betrayed by my family's lawyer, and almost lost everything my father built. That doesn't feel like something. That feels like failure. Noah was quiet for a moment. You know what I see when I look at you? Please don't say a victim. I can't handle inspirational speeches right now. I was going to say someone who got hit by a truck and still managed to get up and walk away. He picked up a spring roll, examined it like it held the secrets of the universe. When Emma's mom left, I spent 3 months convinced I'd failed. Failed as a husband, failed as a father, failed as a person. Kept thinking if I'd just been better, smarter, more something, she wouldn't have left. What changed? Emma, she was 3, and one day she looked at me and said, Daddy, why are you always sad? And I realized I was teaching her that failure meant giving up, that getting hurt meant staying hurt. He looked up at Serena. You didn't fail. You got hurt. There's a difference. Serena felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. When did you become so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who made a lot of mistakes and learned from them. He smiled. Also, I watch a lot of daytime talk shows while Emma's at school. You pick up things. She laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in days. Oh my God, you're getting life advice from Dr. Phil. Hey, don't knock Dr. Phil. That man knows his stuff. They talked for 2 hours. About Emma, about work, about everything except Marcus and the trial and the disaster her life had become. Noah told her about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, about his mother's terrible cooking, about the time he accidentally locked himself in a client's bathroom and had to climb out the window. Serena told him about her father, about building the company, about the pressure of carrying a legacy she hadn't asked for but couldn't abandon. Do you ever wish you could just walk away? Noah asked. Sell everything, move to an island, drink fruity cocktails for the rest of your life? Every day, Serena admitted. But then I think about my father working 80-hour weeks to build something that mattered, something that employed thousands of people, that created opportunities, that meant something beyond just making money. And I can't let that go, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He'd be proud of you. You didn't know him. No, but I know you, and if you're anything like him, he'd be proud. When they finally left the restaurant, the night air was cool and clear. They stood in the parking lot, neither quite ready to leave. Thank you, Serena said, for tonight, for listening, for not treating me like I'm broken. You're not broken, Noah said. You're just figuring out who you are without all the bullshit in the way. And who am I? I don't know, but I'm guessing you're about to find out. He walked her to her car, waited until she was safely inside. As she drove away, she watched him in the rearview mirror, standing under the streetlight, hands in his pockets. Emily was right. There was something there. Something real and dangerous and completely inappropriate given everything she was dealing with. But for the first time in months, Serena felt like maybe, just maybe, not every person in her life was trying to destroy her. The next morning, Jennifer called with news. Marcus wants to make a deal. Serena was in the middle of a budget meeting. She excused herself and stepped into the hallway. What kind of deal? He'll plead guilty to fraud, cooperate with the investigation into Richard's other dealings, and agree to a restraining order that lasts the rest of his life. In exchange, he wants you to drop the civil suit and agree not to pursue restitution for emotional damages. He wants me to let him off easy. Essentially, yes. Serena looked out the window at the city sprawling below her. Somewhere out there, Marcus was sitting in his mother's house with an ankle monitor, probably still convinced he could talk his way out of this. No deal, she said. Serena, think about this. A trial will drag on for months. The press coverage will be brutal. Every detail of your relationship will be picked apart in public. Are you sure you want to go through that? I'm sure I want him to face consequences for what he did. Not just to me, but to everyone he's hurt. His mother mortgaged her house to bail him out. Natalie's family spent their savings on her defense. Richard's wife is divorcing him and losing everything. Marcus doesn't get to walk away from that because it's convenient. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll tell them no deal. But you need to prepare yourself for what comes next. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. At least this way, it'll be honest. The trial date was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, Serena threw herself into work, into rebuilding the security systems at Whitmore Industries, into proving she was more than the woman who almost lost everything to a con artist. She saw Noah twice more in those weeks. Once at a coffee shop near her office, where they talked about nothing important and everything that mattered. Once at a park where he'd taken Emma to fly kites, and Serena had stopped by because she happened to be driving past. And that was a complete lie, but Noah was kind enough not to point it out. Emma was exactly as advertised, 6 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs, convinced Serena had superpowers. Did you really punch the bad guy? Emma asked, looking up at Serena with huge brown eyes. Not exactly. I outsmarted him instead. That's even better, Emma declared. Daddy says brains are better than muscles. Daddy's right. Daddy's always right, Emma said with complete confidence, except when he makes breakfast. Then he burns everything. Noah groaned. One time. I burned toast one time and you'll never let me forget it. It was really burned, Emma said seriously, like super burned. Watching them together made something ache in Serena's chest. Not envy, exactly. More like longing for something she'd never had, that easy comfort, that uncomplicated love. Later, after Emma ran off to chase birds, Noah said quietly, You don't have to keep stopping by, you know. I'm not expecting anything. I know, Serena watched Emma spinning in circles, arms outstretched. You make me feel normal, like I'm just a person, not a headline or a cautionary tale or a billionaire heiress, just Serena. That's because you are just Serena. The rest is just noise. The noise is pretty loud. So turn it off for a while. Stop reading the articles. Stop checking your mentions. Just be here. Right now. She tried. She really did. For 30 minutes in that park, watching Emma chase birds and listening to Noah talk about his plans to fix up his truck, Serena almost believed she could be just a normal person having a normal afternoon. Then her phone rang. Jennifer again. We have a problem, Jennifer said without preamble. Marcus's legal team just filed a motion claiming you coerced his confession. They're saying the recording was obtained under duress and should be thrown out. The park disappeared. The normalcy evaporated. Serena was back in the fight, back in the war, back to being someone who couldn't afford a single moment of weakness. I have to go, she told Noah. He didn't ask questions, just nodded and said, Call if you need anything. She didn't call. She went back to her office, met with Jennifer for 4 hours, and drafted a response so airtight that Marcus's lawyers would choke on it. But late that night, alone in her hotel room, she pulled out her phone and texted Noah. Thank you for the afternoon. I needed it more than you know. His response came immediately. Anytime. Seriously. Anytime. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand, and for the first time since everything fell apart, she didn't dream about betrayal. The motion to suppress the recording hit the news cycle like a bomb. By noon, every legal analyst with a camera was debating whether Serena had crossed ethical lines. By evening, Marcus's lawyer was on 3 different networks painting his client as the real victim, manipulated by a vindictive billionaire with unlimited resources. Serena watched the coverage from her office, her jaw tight enough to crack teeth. Turn it off, Jennifer said, reaching for the remote. You're just torturing yourself. They're saying I entrapped him, that I manipulated evidence. They're doing their job, which is throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. The judge will see through it. Jennifer closed her laptop with a decisive snap. What you need to do is stay calm and let me handle this. I am calm. You're gripping that pen so hard it's about to snap. Serena looked down. Jennifer was right. She forced her fingers to relax, set the pen on the desk. What if they win? What if the recording gets thrown out? Then we proceed with the rest of the evidence. The forged documents, the shell companies, the paper trail Richard left. It's not as clean without the confession, but it's still solid. But not guaranteed. Nothing's ever guaranteed in court. You know that. Serena did know that. Her father had fought enough legal battles to teach her that justice and the law weren't always the same thing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Noah. Saw the news. You okay? She typed back. Define okay. Fair point. Stupid question. I'm fine. Just annoyed. Want to be annoyed somewhere that's not your office? Emma's been asking when she gets to see the superhero again. Despite everything, Serena smiled. I'm not a superhero. Try telling Emma that. She drew another picture. This one has you fighting a dragon. A dragon? I think it's supposed to be Marcus, but the symbolism got away from her. Serena looked at the stack of legal briefs on her desk, at the muted television still showing pundits debating her ethics, at the four walls of her office that suddenly felt like a cage. Give me an hour. Where should I meet you? Noah sent an address. When Serena plugged it into her GPS, she realized it was his apartment. She almost texted back to suggest somewhere public instead, almost suggested a park or a restaurant or anywhere that didn't feel so intimate. But she was tired of performing for cameras and dodging reporters and pretending to be stronger than she felt. So she went. The apartment complex was modest, maybe 20 units arranged around a central courtyard with a dying fountain and a few struggling palm trees. Noah's place was on the second floor, at the end of the breezeway. She could hear Emma's laughter before she even knocked. Noah answered the door wearing an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" with a cartoon chef on it. He looked embarrassed. Emma picked it out. I couldn't say no. It's perfect, Serena said, and meant it. Inside, the apartment was small but clean, with furniture that didn't match and walls covered in Emma's artwork. Dinosaurs mostly, but also a few stick figure families and one elaborate drawing of what might have been a spaceship, or possibly a very ambitious sandwich. Emma came running from what Serena assumed was her bedroom, wearing pajamas with T-Rexes on them. You came! Daddy said you might be too busy, but you came! I came, Serena confirmed, crouching down to Emma's level. Your dad said you drew me fighting a dragon? Emma's face lit up. Yes! Want to see? She dragged Serena to the refrigerator, which was covered in drawings held up by mismatched magnets. The dragon picture was front and center, a massive crayon beast in green and purple, with a stick figure Serena wielding what looked like a lightsaber. That's amazing, Serena said. What am I fighting the dragon with? A truth sword, Emma said seriously. Daddy says you use truth to fight the bad guys, so I gave you a truth sword. It glows when people lie. Serena looked at Noah, who shrugged. She's very literal. I love it, Serena told Emma. Can I take a picture of it? You can have it. I'll make another one. Emma carefully removed the drawing from the fridge and handed it over like she was presenting a royal decree. Now you can remember you're a superhero even when you feel regular. Something in Serena's chest cracked wide open. She took the drawing with hands that weren't quite steady. Thank you, Emma. I'll treasure this. Do you want to stay for dinner? Daddy's making spaghetti and he usually doesn't burn it. Usually, Noah muttered. She's really holding on to that toast incident. I'd love to stay for dinner, Serena said. The meal was chaos in the best way. Emma talked nonstop about her day at school, about her friend Sophia, who could do a cartwheel, about the substitute teacher who let them have extra recess. Noah served spaghetti that was actually pretty good, and garlic bread that was only slightly overdone, and salad that Emma picked at while making faces. 3 bites of lettuce, Noah said. That's the rule. But it's green. So are dinosaurs, and you love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are cool green. Lettuce is boring green. 3 bites or no dessert? Emma heaved a sigh that could have powered a wind turbine and ate her lettuce with the enthusiasm of someone being poisoned. Serena watched the negotiation with something close to wonder. This was what normal looked like. This was what family looked like. Not perfect or polished or Instagram ready, just real. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Serena her dinosaur collection, an impressive array of plastic toys organized by period and species. She explained the difference between the Jurassic and Cretaceous eras with the confidence of a tiny paleontologist, and Serena found herself genuinely fascinated. You're really good at this, Serena told her. Explaining things, I mean. You make it easy to understand. That's because I love dinosaurs, Emma said simply. When you love something, talking about it is easy. That's very wise. I know, Emma said without a trace of arrogance, just stating facts. At 8 o'clock, Noah announced bedtime. Emma protested. She always protested, apparently, but eventually agreed to put on real pajamas and brush her teeth if Serena would read her a story. The book was about a dinosaur who was afraid of the dark. Emma snuggled into Serena's side as she read, her small body warm and trusting. By the last page, Emma's eyes were drooping. Will you come back? Emma asked sleepily. To visit? If your dad says it's okay. Daddy always says okay to good people, and you're good people. Noah appeared in the doorway. Come on, kiddo, time for sleep. But I'm not tired, Emma said, yawning hugely. Sure you're not. Say goodnight to Serena. Emma wrapped her arms around Serena's neck in a hug that felt like absolution. Good night, superhero. Good night, Emma. After Noah tucked Emma in, he found Serena standing in the living room, still holding the dragon drawing. Sorry if that was overwhelming, he said. Emma doesn't really do boundaries. It was perfect, Serena said quietly. She's perfect. This whole night was... She stopped, not sure how to finish. Normal? Noah suggested. Chaotic? Slightly sticky? Safe, Serena said. It felt safe. Noah was quiet for a moment. You want some coffee? Or I have beer if you prefer. Coffee's good. They sat on the small balcony overlooking the courtyard, drinking coffee that was too strong and watching moths circle the security lights. Inside, they could hear Emma's white noise machine humming. How do you do it? Serena asked. Raise her alone, work full-time, make it all look so easy. It's not easy. It's barely controlled chaos most days. Noah wrapped his hands around his mug. But she makes it worth it. Every terrible day, every moment I want to give up, I look at her and remember why I'm fighting. You're a good father. I'm a terrified father who's making it up as I go, but I'm trying. He glanced at her. How are you really doing? With everything? Honestly? I don't know. Some days I wake up angry. Some days I wake up scared. Some days I wake up and can't remember why I should bother getting out of bed. And today? Today I came here. And I watched you burn garlic bread and negotiate with a 6-year-old about lettuce, and for 3 hours I forgot that my life is a disaster. She looked at him. So today was good. Noah's expression softened. You can come back any time. Emma would love it, and He stopped himself. And you? I don't hate it, he said quietly, having you here. The air between them shifted, became charged with something neither of them was ready to name. Serena's phone rang, shattering the moment. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. I have to take this, Serena said apologetically. Of course. She stepped inside, pressed the answer button. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something's right for once. Jennifer sounded energized in a way Serena hadn't heard in weeks. I just got a call from the prosecutor's office. Natalie's lawyer contacted them. She wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? Full cooperation. She'll testify against Marcus, provide documentation of the entire scheme, confirm Richard's involvement. Everything. In exchange, they'll drop the assault charges and recommend probation for the fraud. Serena's heart started racing. Why? Why would she do that? Because Marcus threw her under the bus. His lawyers claiming she was the mastermind, that Marcus was manipulated by her, that he's the real victim in all this. Apparently Natalie didn't appreciate being made into the villain. So she's turning on him. With extreme prejudice. The prosecutor says her testimony alone would be enough to convict even without the recording. Serena leaned against the wall, processing. What do you need from me? Your approval. The DA won't move forward without your consent. You're the victim here. It's your call. Do we trust her? Is this some kind of play? I've seen the preliminary statement. It's detailed, specific, and corroborated by evidence we already have. She's not playing. She's angry and scared and willing to destroy Marcus to save herself. Serena thought about Natalie in the study, laughing about Marcus's manipulation tactics. Thought about her screaming in the hotel parking lot, gun in hand. Thought about how easily people turned on each other when the stakes got high enough. Tell them yes, Serena said. But I want everything in writing. Full immunity agreement, testimony transcripts, the works. If she's going to help bury Marcus, I want to make sure she can't change her mind halfway through. Already on it. I'll have drafts by tomorrow morning. After Jennifer hung up, Serena stood in Noah's small living room and felt the walls of the trap closing around Marcus. The recording, the documents, and now Natalie's testimony. There would be no escaping this, no last-minute deals or technicalities to save him. He was finished. "Everything okay?" Noah asked from the balcony doorway. "Marcus's girlfriend is turning state's witness. She's going to testify against him." Noah let out a low whistle. "Guess there's no honor among thieves." "Guess not. How do you feel about it?" Serena considered the question. "Satisfied? Relieved? Slightly sick to my stomach." "That's fair. It's one thing to want justice. It's another to watch someone's life get destroyed, even when they deserve it." "You think I should feel sorry for him?" "No. I think you're human enough to feel complicated about it. That's different." Serena looked at this man who somehow understood her better than people she'd known for years. "I should go. It's late, and you have Emma to think about." "You don't have to go." "I know, but I should." She grabbed her purse, started toward the door, then stopped. "Noah?" "Yeah?" "Thank you. For tonight. For all of it." "Anytime, Serena. I mean that." She left before she could do something stupid like kiss him or cry or admit how much she wished she could stay. The next 6 weeks were a blur of depositions, hearings, and legal maneuvering. Natalie's testimony was devastating. She laid out the entire scheme in excruciating detail. How she and Marcus had met 5 years ago. How they'd spent 3 years researching Serena before Marcus made his approach. How Richard had been recruited with promises of $20 million once the plan succeeded. She had emails, text messages, recorded phone calls where she and Marcus discussed strategy. She had the original versions of the forged documents, complete with notes about which signatures to fake and which accounts to target first. And she had zero remorse about handing it all over. "She's good on the stand," Jennifer reported after one particularly brutal deposition. "Cold but credible. The jury's going to eat it up." What about Marcus? Falling apart. His lawyer's trying to paint him as a victim of his own ambition, someone who got in over his head. But it's not working, not with Natalie contradicting every word. The trial date arrived faster than Serena expected. She'd been dreading it for months, but when the morning finally came, she felt strangely calm. She wore a navy suit, simple jewelry, minimal makeup. Jennifer had coached her extensively on courtroom demeanor. Professional but not cold, composed but not robotic, sympathetic without appearing weak. "You're the victim here," Jennifer reminded her in the car on the way to the courthouse. "Let the jury see that. Don't try to be strong or untouchable. Just be honest." The courthouse steps were packed with reporters. Camera flashes exploded as Serena climbed out of the car, and questions came from every direction. "Ms. Whitmore, do you have any comment on Marcus Bennett's claims of innocence? Do you regret getting engaged to him? What would you say to other women who've been victims of fraud?" Serena kept her head up, her expression neutral, and walked through the gauntlet without saying a word. Jennifer had been clear. No comments, no reactions, nothing that could be taken out of context. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than she expected, more intimate. Marcus sat at the defense table with his legal team, looking thinner than she remembered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Noah's monthly rent. He didn't look at her when she entered, didn't acknowledge her presence at all. The proceedings started with jury selection, a tedious process that took most of the day. Serena watched potential jurors get questioned about their views on white-collar crime, their experience with fraud, their ability to remain impartial when one party was significantly wealthier than the other. By the time they broke for the day, Serena's head was pounding. "You did good," Jennifer said as they left through a side entrance to avoid the press. "Tomorrow's opening statements. That's when things get real." That night, Serena couldn't sleep. She paced her hotel room, ordered room service she didn't eat, and finally gave up and texted Noah at 11 p.m. "Can't sleep. Trial starts tomorrow for real." His response came immediately. "Want to talk about it?" "Not really. Just wanted to talk to someone who isn't a lawyer." "I can do that. Emma asked about you today. Wanted to know when you're coming back." "Soon. After this is over. She's making you another drawing. This one has you riding a T-Rex into battle." "A T-Rex?" "She's combining all her favorite things, superheroes and dinosaurs." Serena smiled despite her nerves. "Tell her I can't wait to see it." "You going to be okay tomorrow?" She thought about lying, about saying she was fine and strong and ready. But this was Noah, who'd seen her at her worst and hadn't flinched. I don't know. Probably. Maybe. Ask me tomorrow night. I'll be thinking about you. Not in a weird way, just in a I hope you're okay way. I know what you meant. Good. Now try to sleep. You need to be sharp tomorrow. Yes, Dad. I'm serious. Close your eyes, breathe, and stop catastrophizing. How do you know I'm catastrophizing? Because I know you. Now sleep. She did eventually, and when she woke up, there was another text from Noah waiting. You've got this. Go show them what you're made of. The opening statements were brutal. The prosecution laid out the case methodically. The planning, the execution, the near success of the fraud. They painted Marcus as a calculating predator who'd spent years setting up the perfect crime. Marcus's defense attorney countered by painting him as a man who'd made mistakes but not crimes. Someone who genuinely loved Serena but gotten caught up in bad decisions, influenced by Natalie and Richard. It was a nice try. It wasn't going to work. The first witness was a forensic accountant who walked the jury through the shell companies and offshore accounts. She had charts, spreadsheets, and a laser pointer she wielded like a weapon. By the time she finished, it was clear that this wasn't amateur hour. This was sophisticated, planned, and deliberate. The second day brought Richard Walsh to the stand. He'd taken a plea deal in exchange for testimony, and he looked like a man who'd aged 20 years and 6 months. His hands shook as he was sworn in. The prosecutor was merciless. Mr. Walsh, how long had you known the defendant Marcus Bennett before agreeing to participate in this fraud? 2 years, approximately. And how did you meet? He contacted me, said he was dating Serena and wanted advice on managing their future joint finances. And you believe this was legitimate? Richard's voice was barely audible. At first, yes. When did it become illegitimate? When he offered me $20 million to help him steal from her. A murmur ran through the courtroom. The judge gavelled for silence. And you agreed? Yes. Why? Richard looked directly at Serena for the first time. Because I'm a coward and a thief, and I convinced myself that Serena had so much money she'd never miss it. But she would have noticed eventually. By then, we'd be gone. That was the plan. Take the money and disappear before she realized what happened. Serena kept her face blank, but inside she was screaming. This man had stood beside her at her father's funeral, had helped her navigate her grief, had been family, and he'd been planning to rob her the entire time. The prosecution spent another hour pulling details from Richard, dates, amounts, specific conversations with Marcus about how to manipulate Serena's trust. By the time they finished, Richard looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Marcus's attorney tried to rehabilitate him on cross-examination, suggesting that Richard had been the mastermind and Marcus had simply followed his lead. But it was weak, and everyone in the courtroom knew it. The third day brought Natalie to the stand. She walked in wearing a conservative dress and no makeup, looking younger and more vulnerable than Serena remembered. It was calculated, obviously, but effective. The prosecutor started gently. Ms. Carson, how did you meet Marcus Bennett? At a charity gala in Los Angeles 5 years ago. And what attracted you to him? He was charming, handsome, attentive. He made me feel special. When did you learn about his plan to defraud Serena Whitmore? About 6 months after we started dating. He told me he'd found the perfect mark, a lonely billionaire desperate for love. He said we could take her for everything she had and live like royalty for the rest of our lives. And you agreed to help him? Natalie's voice was steady. Yes, I did. Why? Because I loved him, and because I was young and stupid and thought money would make me happy. The testimony went on for hours. Natalie described their planning sessions, the research they'd done on Serena, the way Marcus had orchestrated every aspect of their relationship. She read from emails where Marcus had laughed about how easy Serena was to manipulate. She played voice recordings where he'd practiced his proposal speech, trying different versions to see which would get the best emotional response. It was devastating, clinical and thorough and absolutely damning. When Marcus's attorney got his turn at cross-examination, he went hard. Ms. Carson, isn't it true that you're only testifying because the prosecution offered you a deal? Yes. And isn't it true that you're lying about Marcus's involvement to save yourself? No. You expect this jury to believe that you, A woman with a history of fraud charges in 2 other states are suddenly telling the truth? Natalie's expression hardened. I'm telling the truth because Marcus threw me under the bus the second things went wrong. He told his lawyer I was the mastermind, that I manipulated him, that he was the victim. Her voice rose slightly. I spent 3 years helping him plan this. I gave up everything to be with him. And the moment he got caught, he blamed me for all of it. So yes, I'm telling the truth, because he doesn't deserve my loyalty anymore. The attorney tried to shake her, tried to find inconsistencies in her story. But Natalie had been living this lie for years. She knew every detail, every timeline, every conversation. She was unshakable. By the time she stepped down, Marcus looked like he'd been physically beaten. On the 4th day, it was Serena's turn to testify. She'd been dreading this moment, but when her name was called, she walked to the stand with her head high. The prosecutor started with background questions: her relationship with her father, the building of Whitmore Industries, her position in the company. Then they moved to Marcus. When did you meet the defendant? 2 years ago, at a business conference in San Francisco. What was your initial impression of him? Serena chose her words carefully. He was charming, attentive. He seemed genuinely interested in me, not just my money. When did he propose? 8 months ago, on my birthday. He'd planned this elaborate dinner, and he got down on one knee and said— She stopped, her throat tight. Take your time, Ms. Whitmore. She took a breath. He said I was the love of his life, that he wanted to spend forever making me happy, that he'd never felt this way about anyone. Did you believe him? Yes, I believed every word. The prosecutor walked her through the relationship, the engagement, the wedding planning. Then they got to the night she came home early. What made you return 4 days ahead of schedule? My business in Singapore finished early. I wanted to surprise Marcus. And what happened when you arrived at your home? Noah Bennett, who worked as a janitor at the estate, stopped me before I could enter. He told me Marcus wasn't alone. And what did you do? I didn't believe him at first, but he showed me a hidden passage where I could see into the bedroom without being seen. And what did you observe? Serena's hands tightened on the armrests. I saw Marcus with another woman, and I heard them discussing forged documents, stolen assets, and their plan to take control of my fortune after we were married. The prosecutor had her describe everything: the conversation she'd overheard, the decision to record a confession, the confrontation in the study. Serena spoke clearly, maintaining eye contact with the jury, letting them see the hurt and betrayal she'd felt. When it came time for cross-examination, Marcus's attorney tried to paint her as a vindictive woman, seeking revenge on a man who genuinely loved her. Isn't it possible, Ms. Whitmore, that you misinterpreted what you heard? That you heard a private conversation out of context and jumped to conclusions? No, I heard them discuss specific dollar amounts, account numbers, and timelines. There was no misinterpretation. But you were upset. You just discovered your fiancé with another woman. Perhaps your judgment was clouded by emotion. My judgment was perfectly clear. I knew exactly what I was hearing. And you decided to entrap Mr. Bennett by recording a private conversation without his knowledge? I decided to protect myself by documenting the truth. The attorney tried several more angles, but Serena held firm. She'd lived through the betrayal. She'd seen the evidence. She knew exactly what had happened. When she finally stepped down from the stand, her legs were shaking, but she'd done it. She'd told the truth, and the jury had listened. The defense put Marcus on the stand the next day. It was a mistake, and everyone knew it. He tried to play the victim, claimed he genuinely loved Serena, but got swept up in Natalie's schemes. But his story had too many holes, too many contradictions with the documented evidence. The prosecution tore him apart on cross-examination. They played recordings where his voice was clear, discussing the fraud in detail. They showed emails he'd sent to Richard mapping out the timeline. They presented evidence that he'd opened the offshore accounts himself, 6 months before even meeting Serena. By the time he stepped down, his credibility was destroyed. The closing arguments were mercifully brief. The prosecution summarized the mountain of evidence. The defense made one last desperate plea for sympathy. Then the jury went out to deliberate. Serena sat in a small witness room with Jennifer, drinking bad coffee and trying not to think about what would happen if they lost. "Stop catastrophizing," Jennifer said without looking up from her phone. "I'm not. You're doing that thing with your jaw, the clenching thing. You only do that when you're catastrophizing." "What if they don't convict him? What if the jury decides I'm just a rich woman with a grudge? They're not going to decide that. The evidence is overwhelming. Even if they throw out the recording, we still have Natalie's testimony, Richard's testimony, and a paper trail a mile long. No buts. We won this case the moment Natalie decided to flip. Everything after that was just confirmation. Jennifer finally looked up. Trust me, we've got this. They waited for 6 hours. 6 agonizing hours of pacing and coffee and forced small talk. Finally, the bailiff came to get them. Jury's back. The courtroom was packed when they returned. Every seat filled, reporters lining the walls. Serena sat at the prosecutor's table, her hands folded in her lap, and tried to breathe normally. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Then the jury filed in, their faces carefully blank. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. The foreman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of fraud in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. The word seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Serena felt Jennifer grip her hand under the table. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of attempted grand larceny, how do you find? Guilty. 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 On all charges, every count, without exception, Marcus collapsed in his chair. His attorney put a steadying hand on his shoulder, but Marcus was beyond comfort. The judge set a sentencing date for 6 weeks out and dismissed the jury. As they led Marcus out in handcuffs, he finally looked at Serena. His eyes were red, his face pale, and for just a moment she saw fear. Serena, please, he called out. Please, you have to... I don't have to do anything, she said quietly. Not anymore. Outside, the courthouse steps were chaos. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, people pressing forward trying to get a statement. Jennifer stepped up to the microphone. Ms. Whitmore is gratified that justice has been served. She wants to thank the prosecutors, the jury, and everyone who helped bring the truth to light. She will not be taking questions at this time. They made it to the car and pulled away before anyone could follow. In the back seat, Serena finally let herself react. Not tears exactly, just a long, shuddering breath that felt like releasing 3 months of tension all at once. It's over, she said. It's over, Jennifer confirmed. You won. Serena looked out the window at the city passing by. I don't feel like I won. I feel like I survived. Sometimes that's the same thing. That night, Serena went back to the Silver Line Hotel for what she promised herself would be the last time. She'd lived in that anonymous room for 3 months, hiding from her own life. It was time to go home. But first she had a call to make. Noah answered on the second ring. How'd it go? Guilty on everything. Wow. How do you feel? Exhausted, relieved, empty. She kicked off her shoes and lay back on the bed. I keep waiting to feel something big, like triumph or closure or something, but I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for months. Now that it's over, you're crashing. When did you become such an expert on post-traumatic stress? I'm not. I'm just a guy who's been through some stuff and learned to recognize the patterns. Serena smiled despite her exhaustion. Emma still want to see me? Are you kidding? She asks about you every day. I think you've replaced dinosaurs as her favorite topic of conversation. That's a high honor. The highest. So when are you coming by? Tomorrow? If that works for you? Tomorrow works. Emma will lose her mind. Tell her to save room on the fridge. I'm bringing the dragon drawing back. It's been my good luck charm through this whole trial. She'll love that. And Serena? Yeah? I'm proud of you for seeing this through, for not giving up, for being strong even when you didn't feel strong. Her throat tightened. Thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Sure you could have. You're tougher than you think. After they hung up, Serena stared at the ceiling and thought about Marcus in his cell, about Richard waiting for sentencing, about Natalie living with what she'd done. She thought about her father and whether he'd be proud or disappointed. She thought about the last 3 months and everything she'd lost and everything she'd learned. And she thought about tomorrow, about Emma's smile and Noah's terrible coffee and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could start building something real from all this wreckage. For the first time in a long time, tomorrow didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something to look forward to. Morning came with sunlight that felt different somehow, like the world had shifted on its axis overnight. Serena woke in the hotel room for what she'd promised herself was the last time, packed the few belongings she'd accumulated over 3 months of hiding, and checked out without looking back. The mansion was exactly as she'd left it, grand and empty and full of ghosts. She stood in the driveway for a long moment, keys in hand, wondering if she could actually walk through those doors. The last time she'd been here, Marcus had been leading her to the study to sign away her fortune. The time before that, she'd listened through a hidden wall while he mocked her loneliness. "Just a building," she said out loud. "It's just a building." But it didn't feel like just a building. It felt like a crime scene. She forced herself inside anyway. The air smelled stale, like the house had been holding its breath. Mail was piled on the entry table, mostly junk, some legal notices, a few sympathy cards from people who'd heard about the trial. She left it all where it was and walked through the rooms, relearning the geography of her own home. The study looked normal. The police had taken the recording device as evidence, but everything else was untouched. Her desk, her books, the chair where Richard had sat and helped plan her destruction. She stood in the doorway and tried to remember what it had felt like before, when this room had been her sanctuary. The feeling wouldn't come. Her bedroom was worse. The bed was unmade. She'd left in such a hurry that night that she hadn't bothered with sheets. Marcus's cologne still lingered in the air, mixed with something floral that must have been Natalie's perfume. Serena opened all the windows and started stripping the bed with violent efficiency. Everything went into trash bags, the sheets, the pillows, the decorative throws Marcus had picked out. If he'd touched it, it was gone. She worked methodically through the closet, pulling out the clothes he'd bought her, the jewelry he'd given her, anything that carried his fingerprints. By noon, she had 6 industrial-sized bags of stuff lined up in the hallway. She'd call a donation center later. Or maybe she'd just burn it all. That seemed more satisfying. She was dragging the last bag out of the bedroom when her phone rang. Emily, from the office. "Please tell me you're not working today," Emily said. "The trial just ended yesterday. You're supposed to be resting." "I'm cleaning. It's therapeutic." "Cleaning? You have people for that." "I fired all the people. Well, most of them. Anyone Marcus hired is gone." Serena dropped the bag and leaned against the wall. "I can't have them here, Emily. Every time I see someone he brought into this house, I wonder if they were part of it, if they knew. That's not healthy. Probably not. But it's where I am right now." Emily was quiet for a moment. "Okay, but you're taking the rest of the week off. David already approved it. You don't come back until Monday at the earliest, and that's only if you're actually ready." "I'll think about it." "That's not a suggestion. That's an order from your assistant who cares about you and will physically block your office door if necessary." Despite everything, Serena smiled. "Fine. I'll take the week." "Good. Now go do something normal. See a friend. Watch a movie. Eat something that's not room service." After they hung up, Serena looked around at the mansion that suddenly felt too big and too empty. She could stay here, could spend the week deep cleaning every trace of Marcus from the premises. Or she could do what Emily said and try to remember what normal felt like. She grabbed her keys and headed for the door. Noah's apartment complex looked different in daylight. Less shabby, more lived in. Kids were playing in the courtyard, splashing in the fountain that apparently worked when it felt like it. A woman was hanging laundry on a balcony, singing along to music Serena couldn't hear. It felt real in a way her mansion never had. She knocked on Noah's door and heard immediate chaos from inside. Emma's voice shouting, "It's her! Daddy! It's her! She's here!" The door flew open and Emma launched herself at Serena's legs with the force of a small, enthusiastic missile. "You came! Daddy said you'd come, but I didn't know if you'd really come, but you came." Emma looked up with shining eyes. "Did you win? Did you beat the dragon?" "I won," Serena said, crouching down to Emma's level. "The dragon's locked up where he can't hurt anyone anymore." "Good. Because you're a superhero, and superheroes always win." Emma grabbed Serena's hand and started pulling her inside. "Come see! I made you something!" Noah appeared in the kitchen doorway, wearing another ridiculous apron. This one said Grill Sergeant and had a cartoon hot dog saluting. He looked tired but happy, and when his eyes met Serena's, something warm and complicated passed between them. "Sorry," he said. I told her you were coming, and she's been vibrating with excitement for 12 hours. It's perfect, Serena said, and meant it. Emma dragged her to the refrigerator, which now had 3 new drawings prominently displayed. One showed Serena riding the promised T-Rex into battle. Another depicted what appeared to be a victory celebration with confetti and balloons. The third was just the words, "You win," in crayon letters big enough to be seen from space. I made them all last night, Emma explained, because Daddy said you had a hard day and art makes everything better. Serena felt her throat tighten. They're beautiful, Emma. Thank you. You're welcome. Now you have to stay for lunch because Daddy made sandwiches, and they're actually good today. Lunch was indeed good. Turkey and cheese on bread that Noah admitted he'd bought from the expensive bakery because he wanted to do something special. They ate on the balcony while Emma narrated an elaborate story about a dinosaur detective who solved crimes using science. She's been watching too many crime shows, Noah said apologetically. I think it's brilliant, Serena said. Emma, you should write this down. It could be a book. Really? Really, I'd buy it. Emma's face lit up like Serena had just promised her the moon. After lunch, Emma insisted on showing Serena her entire room, the dinosaur posters, the rock collection, the craft projects in various states of completion. She explained each one in detail, and Serena listened with a patience she didn't know she possessed. When Emma finally ran off to find a specific dinosaur fact book she wanted to share, Noah leaned against the doorframe and said quietly, You're good with her. I'm winging it. I don't know anything about kids. You're listening to her, taking her seriously. That's 90% of parenting right there. He paused. How are you really doing, with everything being over? Serena sat on the edge of Emma's bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and books about prehistoric creatures. I spent this morning throwing away everything Marcus ever touched. Sheets, clothes, towels. Even the coffee maker because he bought it, and I can't look at it without remembering him making breakfast and smiling at me while planning to destroy my life. That's fair. Is it? Because it feels crazy. It feels like I'm trying to erase him, but he's still everywhere, every room, every object, every memory. I can't escape him even though he's in jail. Noah came and sat next to her, careful to leave space between them. After Emma's mom left, I threw out half the apartment. Pictures, clothes, wedding gifts, anything that reminded me of her. My mom said I was being dramatic. Maybe I was, but I needed it gone. Did it help? Eventually. Not right away. But eventually I stopped seeing her in every corner. I stopped hearing her voice in every room. It got better. How long did that take? Longer than I wanted, shorter than I feared. He looked at her. There's no timeline for this, Serena. You heal when you heal. Anyone who tells you different is lying. Emma returned with her book, and the conversation shifted back to dinosaurs and science and easier topics. But Serena felt steadier somehow, like Noah had given her permission to be as broken as she needed to be. She stayed until dinner, helped make spaghetti again, this time without burning anything, and read Emma 3 bedtime stories because one was apparently not enough. Will you come back tomorrow? Emma asked as she was tucking her in. I don't know. Maybe. Please? We could go to the park. They have really good swings. Serena looked at Noah, who was watching from the doorway with an expression she couldn't quite read. The park sounds nice, Serena said. If your dad says it's okay. It's okay, Noah said. Definitely okay. Emma fell asleep holding the stuffed triceratops Serena had picked up on the way over, an impulse buy that had made Emma scream with joy. Serena stood there for a moment, watching this small person who believed so completely in superheroes and happy endings. Outside, the night air was cool. Noah walked Serena to her car, hands in his pockets, looking like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Thank you, Serena said finally, for letting me spend the day here, for Emma, for all of it. You don't have to thank me. We like having you around. We? Okay, I like having you around. Emma tolerates you at best. He smiled. Obviously kidding, she adores you. The feeling's mutual. They stood there in the parking lot, neither quite ready to say goodbye. Finally, Noah said, The park tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll bring coffee. I'll be there. She almost kissed him, almost closed the distance between them and found out what it would feel like to kiss someone who actually gave a damn about her as a person and not a bank account. But she'd just ended a relationship built on lies, had just watched her ex-fiancé get convicted of trying to steal her fortune. The last thing she needed was to jump into something new before she'd even processed the old. So she got in her car and drove away, watching Noah in the rearview mirror until he disappeared. The park the next morning was exactly what Emma had promised. Good swings, a decent playground, and enough open space that Serena didn't feel trapped. Noah brought coffee in a thermos that was actually better than most of the expensive stuff she bought. "Where did you learn to make coffee like this?" she asked. "Worked at a cafe in college. Learned from a guy who took it way too seriously. I retained more than I thought." Emma was already halfway up the climbing structure, fearless and fast. Noah watched her with the casual vigilance of a parent who knew his kid's capabilities but was ready to catch her if needed. "She's got no fear," Serena observed. "None. Terrifies me daily." He took a sip of coffee. Her mom was like that, completely fearless. Until she wasn't. It was the first time he'd really talked about Emma's mother beyond the basic facts. Serena waited, letting the silence stretch. "She had postpartum depression," Noah said finally. "Bad, but she wouldn't get help. Said she was fine. Said she just needed time. Then one day I came home and she was gone. Left a note saying she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be a mother, couldn't be a wife, couldn't be any of it. I'm sorry. I was angry for a long time. Felt abandoned. Felt like she'd chosen the easy way out and left me holding the pieces. But eventually I realized she was sick and scared and didn't know how to ask for help." He watched Emma swing from bar to bar. "I hope she's okay, wherever she is. I hope she found whatever she was looking for. Do you ever hear from her?" "No. She signed away her parental rights, made it clean. Part of me wishes she'd stayed in Emma's life somehow. But honestly, Emma's better off without someone who didn't want to be there." They sat on the bench and watched Emma play, and Serena felt the weight of understanding settle over her. They were both survivors of betrayal, both trying to figure out how to trust again. "Can I ask you something?" Noah said. "And you can tell me to shut up if it's too personal." "Go ahead. What are you going to do now? With the company? With your life? Now that the trial's over and Marcus is gone?" Serena thought about it. "Honestly, I have no idea. The company's fine, the board's happy, everything's stable, but I feel like I'm standing in the middle of my life and nothing fits anymore. The mansion doesn't feel like home. Work doesn't feel fulfilling. I don't know who I am without all the drama." "Maybe that's good. Maybe it's a chance to figure out who you want to be. Easy to say, harder to do." "Everything worth doing is hard. Doesn't mean you don't do it." Emma ran over, breathless and demanding they watch her do the monkey bars. They applauded her performance, and she ran back for another round. "She thinks you're magic, you know," Noah said. "Keeps telling her friends at school about the superhero lady who fights dragons. I hope I don't disappoint her when she realizes I'm just a person." "You won't, because being just a person who does the right thing is pretty magical all by itself." They stayed at the park for 3 hours, until Emma was exhausted and hungry and starting to get cranky. Noah suggested lunch at a burger place nearby, and Serena agreed without hesitation. The restaurant was loud and crowded, full of families and noise and normal life. Emma colored on the kids' menu while they waited for food, creating what she declared was an accurate scientific diagram of a stegosaurus. "That tail looks dangerous," Serena said. "It's called a thagomizer. That's the real name. Scientists named it after a cartoon." "No way. It's true. Tell her, Daddy." Noah confirmed the story, and Serena found herself genuinely delighted by this weird little fact. The food came, burgers and fries and milkshakes that were probably terrible for all of them. Emma ate with the enthusiasm of someone who'd burned serious calories at the playground, getting ketchup on her face and not caring. "You've got a little—" Serena gestured to her own cheek. Emma wiped at the wrong spot. "Here, let me." Serena grabbed a napkin and cleaned Emma's face with the automatic gesture of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, even though she hadn't. It just felt natural. Noah was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "What?" she asked. "Nothing, just you're different than I expected." "Different how?" "More real, more normal. I thought billionaires would be cold and distant and untouchable. But you're sitting in a burger joint with ketchup on your sleeve, helping a 6-year-old color a dinosaur. It's weird?" "Nice," he said. "It's really nice." After lunch, they walked Emma back to the apartment for her mandatory quiet time, a rule Noah enforced with the dedication of someone who knew the consequences of skipping it. Do you want to come in? He asked Serena at the door. Emma will just read in her room for an hour. We could talk, or not talk, whatever. Serena knew she should say no, should go home, deal with her own life, put some distance between herself and this thing that was developing whether she wanted it to or not. Okay, she said instead. Inside, Emma disappeared into her room with minimal protest, clutching a book about marine dinosaurs. Noah made more coffee, and they sat on the balcony, watching the complex's daily life unfold below them. Can I ask you something? Serena said. Why did you help me? Really? You said it was about teaching Emma to do the right thing, but there had to be more to it than that. Noah was quiet for a long time. You want the honest answer, or the answer that makes me sound good? Honest. I was angry. At Emma's mom, at the world, at myself for not being enough to make her stay. And then I saw what Marcus was doing to you, and I thought, here's someone else using another person's loneliness as a weapon. Someone else taking advantage of someone who just wanted to be loved. He looked at her. I couldn't save Emma's mom from whatever demons were chasing her. But I could save you, so I did. That's still heroic. It's still selfish. I did it as much for me as I did for you. I don't care, you still did it. Serena set down her coffee. Nobody else did. Not the people who worked for me, not the board members who'd known me since childhood, not any of the so-called friends who disappeared the moment I wasn't useful anymore. Just you. The janitor who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Former janitor, Noah corrected with a small smile. I keep forgetting I quit. What are you doing now, for work? Odd jobs mostly. Handyman stuff, some painting, whatever keeps the bills paid. It's fine. More flexible anyway, makes it easier with Emma's schedule. Serena thought about the mansion, about the rooms that needed repainting, the broken fountain in the back garden, the 100 small repairs she'd been ignoring. I need help, she said. At the house. There's work that needs doing, and I don't trust any of Marcus's people. Would you be interested? Noah's expression shifted to something guarded. Serena, I'm not offering charity. I'm offering work. Good pay, flexible hours, and you can tell me to go to hell if I'm overstepping. It's not that. I just don't want you to feel obligated because I helped you. I don't feel obligated. I feel like I'm asking someone I trust to help me reclaim my own house from the ghost of my asshole ex-fiancé. That's different. He laughed despite himself. When you put it that way. So is that a yes? Let me think about it. Talk to Emma. Make sure she's okay with me working there. Why wouldn't she be? Because the last time I took a job at a rich person's house, I came home stressed and exhausted every night. She noticed. Kids always notice. Emma emerged from her room at that moment, book in hand, announcing that quiet time was basically torture, and could they please do something fun now? They ended up at the complex's pool, which was small and slightly dingy, but Emma loved it anyway. Serena had nothing to swim in, so she sat on the edge with her feet in the water while Noah and Emma played sharks and minnows. Watching them together hurt in a good way. The easy affection, the laughter, the way Noah was completely present and focused on making his daughter happy. This was what family looked like. This was what love looked like. Marcus had never looked at her the way Noah looked at Emma. Had never been that unguarded, that genuine, that real. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Sentencing hearing scheduled for next Friday. Prosecutors recommending maximum penalty for Marcus, 20 years. Richard gets 8 years with his plea deal. Natalie gets probation. Thought you should know. 20 years. Marcus would be in his 50s when he got out. If he got out. With good behavior, maybe 15. Still a lifetime. Serena should have felt triumphant. Should have felt vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired. You okay? Noah had climbed out of the pool and was standing in front of her, dripping water. Sentencing hearing next week. They're recommending 20 years for Marcus. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Relieved? Sad? Angry that I feel sad because he doesn't deserve my sadness? She looked up at him. Is it weird that part of me feels sorry for him? Even after everything? No, it means you're human. Means you can separate what someone did from what they're going to suffer as consequence. That's not weakness. That's empathy. I don't want to be empathetic. I want to be cold and vengeful and satisfied. No, you don't. Because if you were those things, you wouldn't be you, and you being you is kind of important. Emma splashed over, demanding Noah come back and play. He went, but not before squeezing Serena's shoulder in a gesture of comfort that somehow meant more than any words could. She stayed until the sun started setting, until Emma was exhausted and pruny and half asleep on Noah's shoulder. They walked back to his apartment together, and Serena helped get Emma dried off and into pajamas. "Best day ever," Emma mumbled as Noah tucked her in. "Can we do it again tomorrow?" "We'll see. Sleep now." "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, baby." Outside Emma's room, Noah said, "You don't have to keep coming around, you know. I know you've got your own life to deal with." "What if I want to keep coming around?" "Then you're welcome any time, but Serena—" He stopped, seemed to struggle with something. "I need you to be sure about this, about spending time with us, because Emma's getting attached, and if you disappear, it'll hurt her." "I'm not going to disappear." "You say that now, but your life is complicated. Mine is simple. We live in different worlds." "So what? We can't bridge that gap?" "I'm not saying we can't. I'm saying we need to be honest about what this is, what we are." He looked at her directly. "I like you, Serena. More than I probably should, but I've got Emma to think about. I can't bring someone into her life who's going to leave when things get hard." "I'm not Marcus," Serena said, her voice harder than she intended. "I don't lie about my feelings and I don't disappear when people need me. If I'm here, fully. You can trust that or not, but don't compare me to people who hurt you." Noah's expression softened. "You're right. I'm sorry. That wasn't fair." "No, it wasn't." She grabbed her bag, started for the door, then stopped. "For the record, I like you too. More than I probably should. And yes, my life is complicated. But I'm working on that. And part of working on it is figuring out what I actually want instead of what I think I should want." "And what do you want?" She looked at him standing there in his faded jeans and worn t-shirt, looking nothing like the men she usually dated and everything like someone real. "I want to keep coming back here. I want to have terrible coffee and watch Emma draw dinosaurs and pretend for a few hours that my life is simpler than it is. And I want to see where this goes without overthinking it into oblivion." She paused. "Is that okay with you?" Noah crossed the small space between them in 2 steps. For a moment, Serena thought he was going to kiss her. Instead, he just looked at her like he was trying to memorize her face. "Yeah," he said quietly. "That's okay with me." She left before she could do something stupid like actually kiss him. But she drove home with a lightness in her chest she hadn't felt in months. The mansion was still empty and too big, but somehow it felt less oppressive. She walked through it mentally cataloging everything that needed to be changed, removed, or burned. The bed, obviously. The study would need new furniture. Maybe she'd knock down a wall, open up the space, let in more light. Maybe she'd sell the whole damn thing and buy something smaller. Something that felt like a home instead of a museum. Her phone rang. David Chen from the board. "Just wanted to check in," he said. "Make sure you're doing okay after the verdict." "I'm fine, David. Better than fine, actually." "Good. Because I have a proposition for you." The Singapore deal went so well that we're getting interest from 3 other Asian markets. Major expansion opportunity. Could double the company's footprint in 5 years. Before Serena would have jumped at this, would have thrown herself into the work, buried her feelings in spreadsheets and conference calls. "Send me the details," she said. "But David, I'm taking time before I commit to anything major. Real time, not a week, not a month. However long I need." There was a pause. "Are you thinking of stepping down?" "No, I'm thinking of stepping back. There's a difference. I built this company alongside my father. I'm not abandoning it, but I'm also not going to sacrifice everything else in my life for it. Not anymore." "Fair enough. Take your time. We'll be here when you're ready." After they hung up, Serena stood in the empty mansion and felt the future stretch out in front of her. Uncertain, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But hers. Finally, completely, undeniably hers. She texted Noah. "I'm in. For the work at the house. For whatever this is. I'm in." His response came quickly. "Good. Because Emma already told her entire class that her best friend is a billionaire superhero. I can't disappoint her now. Just to be clear, I'm her best friend in this scenario. Obviously, I'm just the chauffeur. Serena smiled and walked through her mansion, already making plans. Some things would stay. Most things would go. And in the empty spaces, she'd build something new, something real, something that actually belonged to her. The sentencing hearing arrived on a Friday morning that felt too ordinary for what it represented. Serena dressed carefully. A charcoal suit, minimal jewelry, her hair pulled back in a way that said she was here for business, not drama. Jennifer met her in the courthouse lobby with coffee and a folder thick with impact statements. "You don't have to go in," Jennifer said. "The prosecutor can handle it without you." "I know, but I want to be there. I need to see it end." The courtroom was less crowded than during the trial. Most of the reporters had moved on to newer scandals, though a few still lingered in the back rows, cameras ready for whatever moment they could sell. Marcus sat at the defense table looking diminished somehow, like the weeks in jail had physically shrunk him. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. Richard Walsh sat on the other side of the room with his own attorney, waiting for his turn. He looked old and broken, nothing like the confident lawyer who used to bounce Serena on his knee. The judge entered and everyone stood. Then the proceedings began with the clinical efficiency of a system that processed tragedies every day. The prosecutor went first, laying out the scope of Marcus's crimes, the years of planning, the systematic manipulation, the nearly successful theft of $700 million. She read from victim impact statements, including ones from Marcus's own mother, who'd lost her house posting his bail, and from Natalie's family, who'd exhausted their savings on her defense. This was not a crime of passion or opportunity, the prosecutor said. This was a calculated, multi-year conspiracy to destroy a woman's life for financial gain. The defendant showed no remorse, no conscience, and no concern for anyone but himself. The state requests the maximum sentence of 20 years. Marcus's attorney stood next, attempting damage control. He painted his client as a man who'd made terrible choices but deserved a chance at redemption. He talked about Marcus's difficult childhood, his struggles with self-worth, his genuine feelings for Serena that had gotten twisted into something ugly. It was a nice try. It wasn't going to work. "Ms. Whitmore," the judge said, "would you like to make a statement?" Serena hadn't planned to speak, had told Jennifer she'd let the legal system do its job without injecting more emotion into it. But standing there, looking at Marcus, she realized she had things that needed saying. She stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to address the court." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Serena walked to the podium, her heels clicking on the tile floor. She didn't look at Marcus, didn't give him that satisfaction. "When I met Marcus Bennett 2 years ago, I thought I'd found something real. Someone who saw me as a person, not a bank account. I was grieving my father, running a company I wasn't sure I was ready to run, and desperately lonely. He seemed like an answer." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I've spent months being angry at him for lying to me, but I've also spent months being angry at myself for being foolish enough to believe him, for ignoring the small inconsistencies, the moments that didn't quite add up, for wanting so badly to be loved that I made myself an easy target." She finally looked at Marcus. He was staring at the table, jaw clenched. What Marcus did was criminal, but what he exposed was my own vulnerability, my own desperate need to believe I was worth loving for something other than my money. In a twisted way, he taught me the most valuable lesson I've ever learned, that I can't base my worth on whether someone else sees it. I have to see it myself. Marcus looked up then, and for just a second, something like regret crossed his face. "I don't forgive you," Serena said directly to him. "I probably never will. But I'm done letting what you did control my life. You stole months from me. You don't get to steal anymore." She turned back to the judge. "I support the prosecution's recommendation for the maximum sentence. Thank you." She sat down, her hands shaking slightly. Jennifer squeezed her arm. The judge took less than 5 minutes to deliberate. "Mr. Bennett, please rise." Marcus stood on unsteady legs. "You have been convicted of fraud, conspiracy, and attempted grand larceny. The evidence shows a pattern of calculated deception spanning multiple years. You targeted a vulnerable woman, exploited her trust, and came within days of stealing a fortune that represented not just money, but her family's legacy and her father's life's work. The judge's voice was cold. This court sentences you to 20 years in federal prison, with eligibility for parole after 15. In addition, you will pay full restitution for all legal fees incurred by Ms. Whitmore, plus punitive damages in the amount of $5 million. $5 million Marcus didn't have and never would. The restitution was symbolic, but the 20 years was very real. Marcus's legs gave out. His attorney caught him, held him upright while the bailiffs moved forward with handcuffs. As they led him away, Marcus turned back one last time. "Serena, please." She didn't respond, didn't even look at him, just watched as he disappeared through the door that would lead him to a prison cell for the next decade and a half. Richard's sentencing was shorter, more perfunctory. 8 years as agreed in his plea deal, disbarment already finalized, every professional achievement of his life erased by his own greed. Margaret Walsh sat in the gallery, crying silently, and Serena felt a pang of sympathy for a woman who'd lost her husband to his own worst impulses. Outside, the courthouse steps were chaos again, but this time Serena was ready for it. She stood at the microphone Jennifer had arranged and read from a prepared statement. "Justice has been served today. I want to thank the prosecutors, the jury, and everyone who worked to hold Marcus Bennett and Richard Walsh accountable for their crimes. I also want to say something to anyone who's been betrayed by someone they trusted. You're not alone. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You're human. And being human means sometimes we believe the best in people who don't deserve it. That's not our failing. That's theirs." She didn't take questions, just walked to the waiting car with Jennifer beside her, leaving the reporters to shout at her retreating back. "That was good," Jennifer said once they were safely inside. "Really good. I meant every word." "I know. That's why it was good." They drove back to Whitmore Industries, where David and the board were waiting with champagne and congratulations. Serena accepted their toasts, their relief that this chapter was finally closed. But she left early, claiming exhaustion, because celebration felt wrong somehow. Victory wasn't supposed to feel this hollow. She drove home, to the mansion that was slowly becoming hers again, and found Noah's truck already in the driveway. He'd been coming 3 days a week for the past month, working on repairs and renovations. The study was completely gutted now, the furniture gone, the walls patched and ready for new paint. The bedroom had been transformed with new everything, bed, curtains, even the carpet ripped out and replaced. She found him in the back garden, working on the fountain. His shirt was off, which was new and distracting, and he was covered in a fine layer of dust and sweat. "How'd it go?" he asked, without looking up. 20 years? He got 20 years. Noah set down his wrench and turned to face her. "How do you feel?" "Empty. Relieved. Sad. All of it at once." She sat on the edge of the fountain. "I thought I'd feel triumphant. I don't. I just feel tired." He grabbed his shirt and wiped his face, then sat beside her. "You're allowed to feel however you feel. There's no right emotion for this." Everyone at the office was celebrating, popping champagne like we'd won some great victory. And I just wanted to come home and hide. "So hide. You've earned it." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun move across the garden. Finally, Serena said, "I'm thinking about selling this place." Noah looked surprised. "Really? It's too big, too empty, too full of ghosts. I keep trying to reclaim it, but maybe some places are just too broken to fix. Or maybe you're not supposed to fix it. Maybe you're supposed to start fresh somewhere else. Is that what you'd do?" "I don't know. I've never had a mansion to sell." He smiled. "But I sold the house Emma's mom and I bought together. Couldn't live there anymore without seeing her in every room. Starting over somewhere new helped. Where would I even go? What would I do with myself?" "Whatever you want. That's the whole point of having money and freedom, right? You get to choose." The idea was simultaneously terrifying and thrilling. She could sell the mansion, buy something smaller, somewhere with less history. She could take that expansion deal in Singapore or turn it down completely. She could work 80 hours a week or cut back to part-time. The choice was entirely hers. "Emma asked when you were coming over again," Noah said, changing the subject. "She wants to show you her science project, something about volcanoes. I'd love to see it. You could come to dinner tonight. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and garlic bread that I'll probably burn." "You won't burn it. You've gotten better." "Have I?" He looked genuinely pleased. "Much better. The garlic bread last week was almost professional quality. High praise from a billionaire. From a friend, Serena corrected. The billionaire thing is just noise. Something shifted in Noah's expression. Is that what we are? Friends? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they'd been dancing around for weeks. I don't know, Serena said honestly. I'm still figuring out who I am after everything that happened. I'm not ready for anything serious or complicated, but I know I like being around you and Emma. I know you make me feel normal in a way nothing else does. And I know I don't want to lose that. You won't. Whatever this is, whatever it becomes, you won't lose it unless you want to. Promise? Promise. He kissed her then, finally, and it was nothing like kissing Marcus. There was no performance to it, no calculation, just honest want and careful tenderness and the taste of dust and coffee. When they pulled apart, Serena was smiling. So, dinner tonight? Dinner tonight, but you're helping cook this time. I refuse to be the only one in the kitchen. I don't know how to cook. Then I'll teach you. Consider it payment for all the therapy you've been providing. I haven't been providing therapy? You listen to me talk about Emma and my ex and my terrible coffee-making skills. That's basically therapy. They went inside together and Noah showed her the progress he'd made on the study. The space was unrecognizable now, open and light-filled, ready to become whatever Serena wanted it to be. What are you thinking for in here? Noah asked. Home office, library, something else? Serena looked around, imagining the possibilities. Maybe nothing. Maybe I just leave it empty for a while, figure out what I actually need instead of what I think I should have. That's very zen of you. I'm trying something new. It's called not planning every detail of my life 10 years in advance. How's that working out? Terrifying, but also kind of liberating. They went to pick up Emma from Noah's mother's house, and the little girl exploded with excitement when she saw Serena. You came! Daddy said you might be too busy, but you came! She grabbed Serena's hand and started pulling her toward the house. I have to show you my volcano. It's not done yet, but it's going to erupt and everything. The volcano was indeed impressive. A papier-mâché mountain with careful attention to geological detail. Emma explained the science with the earnestness of someone who'd actually done the research, and Serena found herself genuinely fascinated. You're going to be a scientist someday, Serena said. I know, Emma replied with complete confidence. A paleontologist, because dinosaurs are important and someone has to study them. At Noah's apartment, Serena helped make dinner while Emma worked on her homework at the kitchen table. Noah taught her how to season the sauce properly, how to tell when pasta was actually al dente, how to not burn garlic bread by watching it constantly instead of wandering off. You're a surprisingly good teacher, Serena said. I had to learn somehow. Trial and error, mostly. Emma's eaten a lot of air over the years. I heard that, Emma called from the table. And it's true. Daddy burned mac and cheese once. I didn't know you could burn mac and cheese. That was one time and I was distracted. By what? Serena asked. Emma's mom called. First time in 2 years. Said she wanted to talk about custody arrangements. He lowered his voice. She never called again. But for that one day I was too distracted to think about cooking. Did she want Emma back? No, she wanted money. Said she had legal rights to child support even though she'd abandoned us. Her lawyer sent papers and everything. What happened? My lawyer sent back documentation showing she'd signed away all parental rights. Case closed. But it messed me up for a while. Made me paranoid she'd come back and try to take Emma. Serena understood that fear. The constant worry that something good could be stolen away by someone who didn't deserve it. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Emma told elaborate stories about her day, demonstrated her volcano eruption technique using baking soda and vinegar in the sink, and demanded Serena read 3 bedtime stories instead of the usual 2. You're spoiling her, Noah said as Serena finished the 3rd book. Good. She deserves to be spoiled sometimes. After Emma fell asleep, they sat on the balcony again, drinking wine Noah had bought specifically for this occasion. I need to tell you something, Serena said, and you can't freak out. That's a terrible way to start a conversation. I'm serious, just listen. She took a breath. I want to set up a trust fund for Emma, for college or whatever she wants to do. I know that sounds crazy and like I'm trying to buy my way into your life or something, but it's not that. She's a good kid with a bright future, and I have resources that could help. That's it. Noah was quiet for a long time. Too long. I'm not trying to take over, Serena said quickly, or suggest you can't provide for her. You're an amazing father, and she has everything she needs. I just thought, how much are we talking about? Noah interrupted. Enough for college, fully paid. Any school she wants, plus a little extra for grad school if she decides to go. Serena, that's too much. It's not. It's barely a dent in my accounts and it could change her life. I can't accept that. It's too generous. Why? Because you're proud? Because you think accepting help makes you weak? She turned to face him. You helped me when I had nothing to offer you in return. You risked your job, your safety, everything. Let me do this, please. Noah looked like he was fighting an internal battle. Finally, he said, on one condition. What? You don't tell Emma. Not yet. When she's older, when she understands what it means, then we can talk about it. But right now, I don't want her thinking she's some charity case. She's not a charity case. She's a brilliant kid who I happen to care about. I know, but let's keep it between us for now. Deal? Deal. They shook hands formally, then both started laughing at the absurdity of it. I really like you, Serena said. That's probably a stupid thing to say given everything, but I do. It's not stupid, and I really like you too. Noah hesitated. But I need to know what you want from this. From us, because I can't do casual. Emma's too involved now, Yar. If you're going to be in our lives, I need to know you're serious about it. I'm serious. I don't know what it looks like long term, and I'm terrible at relationships as evidenced by my recent history, but I'm serious about trying. That's all I needed to hear. He kissed her again, longer this time, and Serena felt something settle in her chest. Not the desperate need for validation she'd felt with Marcus, just quiet contentment. The next few weeks passed in a blur of normalcy that felt revolutionary. Serena went to work but left at reasonable hours. She had dinner with Noah and Emma several times a week. She hired a realtor to list the mansion and started looking at smaller houses in neighborhoods where people actually lived instead of just existed. The press coverage died down eventually. Marcus became old news, replaced by newer scandals. Serena gave one interview to a business magazine about rebuilding trust after betrayal, and then refused all other requests. She was done performing for cameras. Richard's wife, Margaret, called once more, just to say goodbye. She was moving to Florida to live with her sister, starting over where nobody knew her story. I hope you find peace, Serena told her. You too, dear. You too. Natalie sent a letter from probation, attempting an apology that felt more like excuse-making. Serena read it once and threw it away. Some people didn't deserve forgiveness, and Natalie was one of them. The mansion sold faster than expected, some tech entrepreneur who wanted the prestige of the address. Serena took the first offer without negotiating. She didn't care about squeezing out maximum value. She just wanted it gone. She bought a house in Summerlin, a quiet neighborhood with good schools and parks. It was a fraction of the size of the mansion, with only 4 bedrooms and a modest backyard. Noah helped her move in, and Emma declared the new house way better because it has a tire swing. I don't have a tire swing, Serena said. You do now. Emma pointed to the tree in the backyard where Noah was already setting one up. When did you? This morning, Noah called down. Figured every house needs a tire swing. It's basically a law. Serena watched him work, watched Emma bounce with excitement, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. This felt like home. The board meeting the following week was tense. David had called an emergency session to discuss the Singapore expansion, and several members were pushing for Serena to commit immediately. We can't wait forever, Patricia said. The window is closing. If we don't move now, our competitors will. Then let them, Serena said. The room went silent. Excuse me? Patricia looked genuinely shocked. Let our competitors take Singapore. We'll focus on strengthening our existing markets instead of spreading ourselves too thin. That's not the aggressive growth strategy your father would have. My father is dead, Serena said quietly. And I'm not him. I respect what he built. I'll protect it and grow it responsibly. But I'm not going to sacrifice my entire life for quarterly earnings reports. David was watching her with an unreadable expression. What are you proposing? A sustainable growth model. We expand strategically, not desperately. We invest in our people and our infrastructure. We build something that lasts instead of something that looks impressive in Forbes. The shareholders won't like it, someone said. The shareholders will adjust, and if they don't, they can sell their stock. I still control 51%. This company moves at my pace now. It was the first time she'd really wielded her power as majority stakeholder. The first time she'd pushed back against the board instead of deferring to their experience. David smiled. Your father would be proud, not because you're following his path, but because you're choosing your own. The vote passed. Not unanimously, but it passed. After the meeting, David pulled her aside. You've changed, in a good way. I almost lost everything. It puts things in perspective. It's more than that. You're not trying to prove yourself anymore. You're just being yourself. Turns out myself is enough. Who knew? She left the office early and went to pick up Emma from school, something she'd started doing once a week, much to Emma's delight. The other kids stared at Serena's car, and Emma would proudly announce, "That's my friend Serena," like it was the most natural thing in the world. They went for ice cream, got too many toppings, and talked about Emma's upcoming science fair. I need help with my presentation, Emma said. Daddy says I need to practice talking to people without getting shy. You? Shy? I don't believe it. I am. When there's lots of people, I forget what to say. Want to practice with me? Emma's face lit up. Really? Really. We'll do a full dress rehearsal. You present, I'll ask questions, and we'll work on it until you feel confident. They spent the next hour in Serena's new living room, Emma presenting her volcano project while Serena played various roles, encouraging teacher, skeptical judge, curious classmate. By the end, Emma was presenting with the confidence of someone who'd done it 100 times. You're going to win, Serena said. You think so? I know so. You're smart, prepared, and passionate. That's all you need. Noah arrived to pick up Emma, looking tired from a long day of work. He'd taken on more clients after Serena's mansion sold, building a real business instead of just taking odd jobs. How was practice? He asked Emma. Serena says I'm going to win the science fair. I said she has a good shot, Serena corrected. But yes, I'm betting on her. After Emma ran to get her backpack, Noah said quietly, Thank you for this, for caring about her. It's not hard. She's easy to care about. Still, you didn't have to get involved in our lives. You could have just moved on after the trial, but you didn't. Because I didn't want to. Because you two are the best thing that happened to me this year. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be happy. Noah pulled her close and kissed her forehead. Stay for dinner? I'd love to. Emma's science fair was the following week, held in the school gymnasium with dozens of projects competing for ribbons and recognition. Emma's volcano was set up on a table with careful labels and diagrams explaining the geological processes involved. Serena sat in the bleachers with Noah, watching Emma present to the judges. The little girl was nervous at first, stumbling over her words. But then she caught Serena's eye and remembered their practice sessions. Her voice grew stronger, more confident. She didn't win first place. She got second, which was more than respectable. But she ran to Serena first, not Noah, throwing her arms around Serena's waist and shouting, I did it. I didn't freeze up. I remembered everything you taught me. You did amazing, Serena said, hugging her back. I'm so proud of you. Noah was watching them with an expression Serena couldn't quite read. Later, when Emma had run off to celebrate with friends, he said, She loves you, you know. I love her too. I mean, really loves you, like a mother. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. I'm not trying to replace her mother, Serena said carefully. I know that's a complicated thing. Emma doesn't remember her mother. She was too young. You're the first woman who's been consistently present in her life. The first one who's shown up and stayed. He took Serena's hand. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying she sees you that way. And I need to know if that scares you. Serena thought about it, really thought about it. A year ago, the idea of being any kind of parental figure would have terrified her. She'd never planned on kids, never thought of herself as maternal. But Emma had changed something, had shown her that love didn't have to be complicated or conditional. It could just be showing up and caring and being present. It doesn't scare me, Serena said. It feels right. More right than anything else in my life. Noah kissed her then, in the middle of the elementary school gymnasium, surrounded by papier-mâché volcanoes and science projects. I love you, he said. I probably shouldn't say it this soon, and I know your last relationship was a disaster, but I do. I love you. Serena felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. Both of you. 6 months later, Serena stood in her backyard watching Noah teach Emma to plant tomatoes in the garden they'd built together. The house was small but full of Emma's artwork, Noah's tools, books, and laughter, and the kind of chaos that came from actually living instead of just existing. Marcus was 2 years into his sentence. Richard had been released early for good behavior and disappeared somewhere Serena didn't care to track. Natalie had violated probation and was back in jail. Whitmore Industries was stable and growing at a sustainable pace. The Singapore expansion had happened eventually, on Serena's terms and timeline. The board had learned to trust her judgment, and Serena had learned to trust herself. She'd never fully stop being careful, never fully lose the scars Marcus had left. But she'd learned that being hurt didn't mean being broken, that trusting again didn't mean being naive, that loving someone didn't require ignoring red flags. It required finding someone who didn't raise any. Emma ran over, dirt on her hands and face, completely delighted with herself. "Serena, look! I planted 6 tomato plants. Daddy says in a few months we'll have enough tomatoes for sauce." "That's amazing, sweetheart. Will you still be here when they're ready to help make the sauce?" Serena looked at Noah, who was watching her with quiet hope. "Yeah," she said, "I'll still be here." And she meant it. Not as a promise she was forcing herself to keep, but as a truth she actually believed. The mansion was gone. Marcus was gone. The fear and loneliness that had made her vulnerable were gone. What remained was real. Messy and imperfect and sometimes hard, but real. Emma went back to her planting, and Noah came to stand beside Serena. "You okay?" he asked. "More than okay." She leaned into him. "I'm happy." And she was. Not the desperate, grasping happiness she'd faked with Marcus. Not the performance of joy for people who didn't really care. Just the quiet, steady happiness that came from building something authentic with people who actually knew her. The billionaire heiress who'd almost lost everything had learned the most important lesson of all, that worth wasn't measured in dollars or mansions or business deals. It was measured in moments like this, in dirt under fingernails and tomato plants and a 6-year-old who called her family without needing legal documents to prove it. She'd survived the betrayal. She'd survived the trial. She'd survived the rebuilding, and now, finally, she was doing more than surviving. She was living. The sun set over the modest backyard in Summerlin, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside, the house that Serena had chosen, not inherited, not bought for status, but chosen, waited with its tire swing and its lived-in furniture and its complete absence of ghosts. This was home. This was family. This was what victory actually looked like. Not revenge, not vindication, not even justice, though that had come too. Just the simple, revolutionary act of being loved for exactly who she was, and loving back the same way. Marcus had tried to take everything, but in losing what she thought mattered, Serena had found what actually did. And that was something no one could ever steal.